So today we have our guest, Michael Moonesinghe. He is a serial entrepreneur. He moved to Sri Lanka in 2010. Prior to that, he was a police officer in the UK. He's built many businesses, he's built many communities, and it's an honor and a privilege to have him here. Michael,
It's great to
welcome
be
to
here.
From the Island.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
If you don't mind, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? How would you introduce yourself today?
Sure. The first one is I've never come back to the island. I was born and bred in Sri Lanka. Born and bred in the UK with Sri Lankan parents.
Okay.
So my parents, until they died, still refer to it as Ceylon, refused to call it Sri Lanka. And they left the island in '57, one of the first ships to go through the Suez Canal.
Oh, wow.
After they're en route to Canada, never got there. So myself and my two older brothers were born in the UK. So my team are very quick to tell me I'm a Britisher with a suntan and a very long surname. And I grew up very much, my parents never taught me Sinhala. They said no one will ever go and live in Ceylon again. You're British boys living in England, you need to learn English, and French and German, because that's what school dictated. Of course, the only one of us who lives here is myself, and I don't speak much Sinhala. I've been here 15 and a half years. I can understand a lot, but I don't speak it. I do tell people I speak one of the languages of this country fluently, and that's English. The government sometimes needs to realize that English is one of the languages, because all the letters I get are either in Sinhala or Tamil. And I have a great fun in pushing back to say, send me an English version in one of the other languages. So I grew up in England, as you quite rightly said, police officer first, straight from school. Want to be a doctor, but was far too lazy and probably not clever enough either. Was in sales for a while and then went into recruitment and headhunting, which I've done for about 36 years now. It's kind of getting the hang of it. And it's very different to the headhunters in Sri Lanka. Headhunters in Sri Lanka typically sell CVs for a living, and I'm not being disrespectful. I did that for 8 years and had a lot of money selling CVs. A headhunter, and there's a clue in the title, headhunter, you hunt for people, you proactively search for people in the marketplace. So we never had a database. We would pick up the phone and say, hi Shannon, we've not spoken before. My name is Michael. I work in executive search. I have an amazing opportunity I'd love to bring to your attention. Can I take 10 minutes of your time, or could I make an appointment to talk to you about this career opportunity that may or may not be of interest? So that's kind of what I did. And built, as you say, a few companies in London and had great success in the late 80s when you had to be an idiot not to make money in recruitment. And we made a lot, and then we lost a lot. And I've been through 3 recessions. I always said I would never be in recruitment in the 4th recession. And recessions are like tunnels from one side of the mountain to the other. You know that you will reappear into sunshine at some point. You will. The point is you just don't know how long it's going to take and whether you've got enough, fuel on board or whatever to get through this tunnel. Longest tunnel I've been through is 11.2 kilometers long in Switzerland, and that's quite unweary. Yeah, you do get quite disorientated driving in darkness for that long. But during the global financial crisis, if you remember the subprime mortgage in late 90s.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days, or not. I mean, people had said to me, Michael, we've been through recessions before. Well, why is this so different? And I said, kind of the last ones were like people turning a tap off slowly. This was someone turning a light switch off. It happened very quickly. You remember Lehman Brothers, too big to fail, and they failed. And the world went into basically a tailspin, into a nosedive. And I was, for the last 10 years of my headhunting career in the UK, was finding jobs for headhunters. We were quite innovative. We were the first in the world ever to headhunt headhunters. We found people in the executive search world, jobs within the executive search industry. You had to think about that for a while. Headhunting headhunters. No one had ever done it. We were unique. We made absolute name for ourselves. 3 of the world's top 5 headhunting companies used us to find their own senior client partners, which was great. They never admitted it because they always had this, we don't headhunt from our competitors. Yes, you do. They use us to do it. But, so many broke their agreements with it. But when the world stopped recruiting, in a recession, as you probably know, some of the first things ever to go is marketing, followed by recruitment. And they're often the first 2 to recover, but people stop hiring immediately. It's not always the best policy. Sometimes you need to get rid of some people and hire different people in. You know, a sales director is not necessarily that good out on the ground, but if you give it to the sales director and you have a real hungry salesman, might save your business. So it's kind of thing. I wrote an article once, choosing your lifeboat crew, which I can give you a link to that if you want to put in your article, who goes into your lifeboat if you have to go in the lifeboat. And I wrote it in the previous recession. It's very relevant to this one. And it's not who you think it would normally be. It would be different people. Because like you say, you don't need a sales director on a very big salary and a car and flight allowances. You need someone out there bang on doors and win business. That's what's going to save you. So I wrote an article about that. But I realized that in 2009, we were on an express elevator to the basement. And a very famous entrepreneur who your viewers may know of, a guy called Lee Iacocca, an American guy. He was chairman of Chrysler Motor Cars. And a very big, massive guy and very straight talking Texan, I think. And he said, basically there are up elevators and down elevators in life and in business. He meant lifts, but he was American. But, you know, and the skill in life is knowing in which direction your elevator is going. And if it is going down, get off at the next available floor and find one going up. That was his philosophy in life. Very simple philosophy. It actually makes a lot of sense. Even now, makes a lot of sense. If your elevator is going down and you can't arrest the brakes, get off at the next floor and find one going up. So that's what we did. I realized that a headhunter of headhunters was as popular as a prostitute with a dose in a brothel. You know, no one was hiring us, even though some of the companies we'd hired 75% of their senior hires in the last year. They said, Michael, we've got people queuing at the back door willing to work for a third of the salary that we worked last year. Please give us a job. We don't need you, and we certainly don't need to pay you 30% of the annual salary. A bit different in Sri Lanka, which is 10% of the monthly salary. We were getting 30% of an annual salary as a fee, big fees. So I realized the writing was on the wall. It wasn't going to change. It was a long recession. We were in quarter 4. Quarter 1 is always a quiet quarter. And I thought, damn, what do we do now? So I actually went over to India first, not Sri Lanka. I went to Bangalore and sat in a room full of very bright people, 250 recruiters this company had. And the eureka moment didn't drop there, but I saw that they were looking and accessing exactly the same things on the internet, LinkedIn, company websites, profiles, speaker lists, that we were in the UK. But these very bright people were working for a quarter of the salary, maybe less, sometimes to a 12th of the salary in the UK.
Terms. Sure.
So I went back to the UK and said, hey guys, you never guess what I've just seen. Really bright guys from India doing exactly what we're doing. Why didn't you think about your research? Oh, we got rid of all our researchers. Oh, that's interesting. Who's going to do the research then? Well, client partners will have to do it themselves. Well, they're useless. I know. I used to be one. They're useless at headhunting people and doing the research, the hard work. It's a very different skill. It's a business analyst type skill, as opposed to detective skill, which is where the police link comes in. Actually, is proactive going in, finding information. And then the penny dropped. I said, well, if there was a globally centralized business providing you exactly the same service at such a price, would you use it? And they went, yeah, but one doesn't exist. I said, they will soon. So I bought a ticket on my credit card. I was running on vapors at this point. I mean, literally vapors. If people talk about being poor, and I can tell you a story about
we'll get to that.
bones for the dogs later, but I have been very, very poor, incredibly poor, and borrowed money and got into a lot of mess with money. So I decided to go and do something about it, go and be proactive, find that up elevator. Because even in a tough situation, there are opportunities that present themselves. And then after 9 months of there, India changed its visa rules. They didn't want foreigners running businesses. So mainly Chinese they were against, but the rest of us were caught up in it. So I went back to the UK for 10 days to get an employment visa from the company which I'd set up. 6 weeks later, I'm still in a hotel room. My Christmas day was 2 bottles of wine and a bag of crisps. Feeling very sorry for myself in a hotel room. My wife and daughter in university, she'd gone to there. We were going to go come back. My wife said, are you coming back to India or am I coming back to the UK? I said, I got my passport and I can't go forward, I can't go backwards. I was a prisoner in my own country.
Right.
So eventually I got my passport back by threatening to call the police. And then my father said, look, why don't you come to Sri Lanka? Couldn't you run your business here?
Right.
Yeah, maybe. So January 2010, I came down to Sri Lanka, never came back. I have been here on a holiday twice before, once as a 9-year-old, a very long time ago. And then once I was going around the world for 6 months. So we stopped off in Sri Lanka. And we left. I swore I'd never, ever return to this godforsaken island again. Because in 1993, the war had not long, the war was still going. We went up to Polnara, there was an attack, an army camp near to us. It was a very depressing place, nothing was happening. And I actually said then, in 93, you know, when the war finishes and it's a safe place, I will come back here and I will build businesses and I will create jobs. Because I can see, I believe, and I still have this view, what the route forward is. Sri Lankans are very, generalizing, smart people. They can be entrepreneurial, but they tend to copy paste instead of be original. And actually, if you can give direction to that and harness that, you can create. There's no better place in the world, and again, we can talk about that later, to be an entrepreneur than right here, right now. So I'm passionate about Sri Lanka, but I'm also very critical about it. I don't have rose-tinted glasses about this island, but I said then, and I still believe it's true now, 15 years later, the greatest asset this country has been completely overlooked until now. And it's not tea, it's not rubber, it's not tourism. It's people. It's the Sri Lankan people. Sri Lankans speak very good English, 97% literacy rate they talk about. We don't have that horrible call center accent, which some Indians, not all, some Indians, some Filipinos have, which is incredibly grating on the Western ear. I employed 42 people here, very bright people that spoke very good English and were passionate about creating an excellence culture. So it is possible here. The problem is it's not being done here. And I think we don't need to be a BPO and take the crumbs off the table like India did. We need to be like my company, Glover Daniels International, is a KPO, which is a knowledge process outsourcing. I employ people with the brain between their ears.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so a KPO is a knowledge process outsourcing. It's sometimes referred like the legal profession, LPO. The Sri Lankan law and accountancy is based on British law and accounting in general. There are some local differences, but in general, if you get a bachelor's degree in law from a London university, you generally will have the knowledge for here.
Right.
But the work can be done, and a lot of the legal work and accountancy work and analytical work in businesses is incredibly manpower intensive. That can be done in a low-cost center like Sri Lanka. So I believe that can grow massively, and you're exporting a service. So now we're not worried about Trump's tariffs or cost of materials or importation taxes or anything. We're just selling the ability of Sri Lankan workforce, which I think is phenomenal. That's why if you look at any Sri Lankans overseas, Australia, Canada, the US, America, they do very well because they're hardworking and they're smart and they're amiable people. They get on, they're not politically, agitators. They don't cause trouble in the workforce. People love to employ Sri Lankans.
Right.
They love to come to Sri Lankans for dinner because they're very hospitable people until they get behind the wheel of a car. And then they're the most selfish people in the world. Am I right?
Yeah, I can't actually. Yeah, that's so true.
Was that a good short intro?
That's brilliant. That was brilliant.
So that's why I'm here.
So you were mentioning about the talent that Sri Lanka has, the potential you were talking about. That was the whole reason you came here. You saw the potential, you stayed here. But when I think of it from a young person's view, we have an enormous brain drain issue.
Yep.
Enormous.
Yep.
So that takes away from the main asset you were just describing. Why do you think we are in this situation despite the intellectual talent that Sri Lanka has?
You're right. I think it's over 1 million in the last year or so have left.
That's right.
And with all respect to those that are here, like us, they are some of the brightest people. They are the ones with the best English, with the best qualifications, they can get on. They're the ones that are getting the visas and are going overseas. And yes, the grass is often regarded as greener. And if you've grown up on an island, like my very best friend, they'd never left the island till 2 years ago. And I said, well, okay, we're going on a trip. We're going to Malaysia and Thailand. He'd never left the island, saw no reason to leave the island. But when you get to a point, people do want to leave the island. Australians are exactly the same.
Right.
And fun fact, Australia has exactly the same population or similar to Sri Lanka, 23.8 million. They're just a bigger island.
Yeah.
But Aussies are exactly the same. They qualify and then they want to go and travel. You know, when I was headhunting in London, we'd get an Aussie passport and say, hold on, have you done your traveling yet? I see you've just come from Sydney. No. Go and do your traveling around Europe. Come back and see me in 3 months. I'll get you a job. I'll get you 10 interviews today, but not until you've done your traveling. People want to leave, and that's natural. I think a lot of parents believe that you need to go overseas to get on. You need to go to the UK, America. I wouldn't go to America now, but you know, Australia, Canada, they do present a lot of opportunities, and it is different. And you can earn a lot of money. You know, a waiter, a server can go to Dubai and earn the equivalent of about 3.5, 4 lakh a month. But when you consider accommodation costs and this cost and that cost, you're actually worse off.
Yeah.
You're worse off going overseas, and people don't realize that. We did a lot of recruitment for the UK. We never placed Sri Lankan doctors and nurses. I didn't want to mess up the health service here. We moved a lot of people into the UK on what looked like double or triple their salaries from where they were in India or in Africa. But they struggle to get beyond the basic, you know, poverty line. It is an expensive country to live in the UK, incredibly expensive. People don't realize. My daughter went on a train journey the other day, just there and back in the day, £65. What's that in rupees? A lot, about 24,000 rupees.
That's
something
close to
like
30,000. Yeah.
Just a train journey, just go and see your granddad for lunch. So you have to factor that in.
Wow.
But also, I think we have to give a reason for people to stay. We have to give a reason for people to come back, and they're not going to come back immediately. The Aragali is still very, you know, fresh in people's memories. I was there. I went many times to observe. That's very fresh. If there's a reason for them to come back and they feel safe and their efforts and talents, then yes, they will come back. But we have to give a reason for them to come back, not just say, it's okay, guys, come back, you know, on the same salary as you were. No, that's not going to happen. Probably for a generation. That's the scary fact. Probably for a generation that people won't come back.
What's a good reason to come back? If you think about the wages here, working in a corporate place, most people leave because they don't want to do that. You came here to start a business. Do you think that is the main incentive for anyone to come back to start a business?
I think so. I think if someone has done 2 to 5 years, let's say, not just the UK, I use that because I know the country well, internationally, they've worked in the UK or Australia or somewhere for 2 to 5 years, even as a, let's say, a senior software programmer, they could come back here into a senior management role, into an IT management role, or they could develop their own business here. And I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, as you know, set up Sri Lanka Business Hubs in 2016 to do something for this country. That if they come back and start a business, that's the best time to start a business, when they're young. You know, when they don't have, and I don't know about your situation, guys, but I'm guessing you probably don't have a home loan at the moment.
Nope.
Are either of you married yet?
Nope.
No, you look happy, that's why. I just assumed as much. Yeah, I've been married for 42 years and I still smile. So you don't have children, maybe, it doesn't necessarily go together. You don't have children, you're not married, you don't have a home loan, you might have a car loan. When's a good time to start a business? Then, not when you're married and you've got a big loan and you've got school fees and you've got everything else to pay for. That's a big risk. And you're leaving a job that's paying you enough money to pay for the school fees and everything. So I say take a risk when you can afford to take a risk. And that's now. That's under 30, under 35. That's the time to take the risk. And what's the worst that can happen? You could fail. Okay, you failed, you tried. I failed at businesses. I'll be the first to tell you, I've failed at businesses. I'm far too trusting. I tell people too much about how to run the business, how much money we're making. And they go, oh, that's good. Yeah, I'll go and do that. It's happened 3 times in my life, where people that I've employed have gone off and set their own business up in competition to me. It's a free world. They failed, by the way. Such a shame. Glover Daniels is still going 26 years later. But no, I think people should come back. And if the culture is encouraging enough and the economic environment to encourage entrepreneurism, you know, get the banks to start backing entrepreneurs. Because banks aren't in the risk business.
Of course not.
You know that. Banks are like umbrella salesmen who want them back when it starts raining. Sorry to any bankers out there, but that's what I believe. They don't take risks. Even my credit card here, I have to put a 3.5 million fixed deposit down to borrow my own money back. Only 80% of my money can I borrow back for my credit card. Well, that's stupid. It's my money. You're holding. In the UK, you don't need to put security for your credit cards, but that's why you get into trouble.
But that's a big problem, right? This what you just brought up with banks and encouraging entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that is in that situation? They can't go to a bank loan. They don't have any sort of funds they can use. Is there something actionable they can do at a young age to go on this entrepreneurship journey? Is there something that you feel like you say you come from a poor background? What were some things that you did at that point?
Friends and family can be useful, but it's also the worst people to borrow from, because you can screw up relationships and family relationships by borrowing from your friends and family, so probably not. Actually, when I look at a business plan, and I've looked at thousands, you don't necessarily need as much money as you think you need. And let me explain that. If you look and say, well, okay, first of all, how much are you worth? All right. People say, oh, well, I'm paid ₹1 million a month or whatever, that's great. Well, that's your market worth, but you don't need that to live on, I'm sure. If at the end of the month, when you've paid your accommodation costs and, your food and transport costs, maybe some clothing allowance, you probably got some money left. So your market worth and what you need to live on are very, very different figures. And when you say, particularly if you're living at home, if I was to do this, and how much do I absolutely minimum to pay my phone bill and to get me to meetings need for the next 3 months? It's probably not a big figure. It might be less than 100,000 rupees, because that's what you need. You don't necessarily need an office. You don't need a car. You don't need to fly business class. And these are the mistakes most entrepreneurs make. They start spending before they've got. And someone told me a very good analogy once. Analogy is the right word. Turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is reality. And you keep the cash on. If you haven't got the money to pay the light bill or the phone bill, you're out of business. It's as simple as that, regardless of how much the business might make in the next year or 2 years. Yeah. So people need to analyze, well, what do I absolutely need to earn? Now, how can I fund it? Don't sell equity in your business, because it's an incredibly expensive way of raising money. To give an uncle 30% of your business because he's lending you ₹1 million.
Equity.
But the business might be worth 100 million rupees in the next 12 months, particularly in software where they grow very quickly, and service businesses grow very quickly. So you don't give that away. Sometimes you can take a loan. Sometimes you can negotiate with suppliers, extended credit. Sometimes if you're selling a product, like I did to one client, and I was here and again on Vapors, I'd paid the office rent for a year, I'd paid my apartment for a year, and it was December the 24th when pretty much everything shuts down for 2 weeks in the UK. And I'd closed a big deal with this client, £100,000 contract in 2010, which was a lot of money then. And I'd got 12 staff at that point, and we were jostling backwards and forwards about, they banked with HSBC in England, so was my business. My personal bank was HSBC. Here, personal and business was HSBC.
Right.
You'd think it'd be simple. Just send the money there, they'll tell me it's in, and all's good. Sri Lanka HSBC is almost like a franchise of HSBC. It's not the same bank. So they couldn't send it there. And eventually, cut a long story short, this guy said to me, oh, Michael, we're really nervous about sending it to your personal bank account. I said, what am I going to do? Run off and live on a tropical island? I already do. So what am I going to do? And he went, oh, good. And then I read the contract again, because he was really wanting to make it work. Now it's 3 o'clock, and banks close at 3:30 in the UK, and all transactions. And I was screwed in January. I was absolutely screwed. I had no money at that point. We were on less than fumes. I read the contract. I said, hold on. You've signed a contract agreeing for 5 teams for 1 year, and you're paying in advance, which is how cash flow. I gave a massive discount to encourage them paying me in advance. Now I'm using their money. But I said, it's actually my money, because you're committed to that contract. Good point. So send me my money, please, to my bank account in the next 10 minutes, and I'll send it here. And I wrote all my staff a 1 month bonus dated 6th of January. I said, you notice it's date, they've only been with me since September, 3 months. I said, here's a bonus for having belief in me, but don't cash it yet. Let me make sure the money materializes in the bank account first. And they went, I said, because you believed in me and I believe in sharing the sweeties. But that's a good way of getting money, is discounting to a certain extent, getting the customers to pay in advance, extending credit on your suppliers if you can, from 30 days to 42 days to 45 days. It makes a massive difference because cash is the reality. The turnover and the profit, are either vanity or sanity.
Part of the reason that, would you say maybe, let's say 7 to 8 out of 10 businesses may fail if they start?
Yeah.
One of the main reasons that entrepreneurs justify that failure is a lack of capital. Do you think that is the sole main reason for businesses failing?
No, not at all.
Well, what is it?
And I think it's an excuse that sometimes people give. We didn't have the money and whatever. One thing that Sri Lanka Business Centres did for me from 2016, I believed that we would create a community for entrepreneurs to be successful in. So one thing I said is that you're right, globally, I think it's 8 out of 10 now businesses fail in the first 18 months globally. In Sri Lanka, I haven't seen the stats recently, but I would guess it's probably near a 9 or 9.5 out of 10 will fail in the first 18 months. That is horrific. Yeah, horrific. But it's a fact. Even globally, with all the assistance and all the funding and the government grants and everything, they still fail. So I started to look at, why are these businesses failing? Why? They can't all be stupid ideas.
Yep.
I heard stupid ideas. We're inventing a spaceship to the sun, Michael. That's stupid. We're going at night. No, we're not. But they can't all be stupid ideas, can they? There must be some good ideas. And I've heard some brilliant ideas that are very simple ideas. Find a problem, find a solution. That's my advice. If you're an entrepreneur out there or someone thinking about starting a business, don't open another coffee shop in Colombo 7. Don't copy paste something else that's already out there and say we're going to do it cheaper. Because if your USP, your unique selling point, is that you're going to do something cheaper, somebody will do it cheaper than you. And then you'll discount, and then he'll discount, and you'll meet in the bankruptcy courts. Yeah, you'll go out of business. One of the reasons I found sitting with people, and I'm not a techie, even though I earned a good living doing technical recruitment for many years, I was very good at selling technical people into jobs. I used to say my job as a headhunter was a salesman. I sold people to jobs and jobs to people. The rest was bullshit. And we just made it look fancy to justify a £30,000 fee. But that's what we did. So I'm not a techie person. But the techies that I've met will say, and I'm generalizing, I'm very, very clever. I've developed this idea. And the customers say, well, that's interesting. But our need is over here, really. But that's an interesting product. That might solve our problem. Remember, find a problem, find a solution. In version 2, often the product's over here. And the customer says, well, that's really good. Lots of whistles and bells, but we're still over here. That's what we want to buy. By version 3 and by version 4, normally within 12 to 18 months, people have developed products and services that people don't want to buy. They don't want to buy them. If you just give something that somebody wants to buy, they'll buy it if it's at the right price and everything else. So one of the problems is that people get hung up on the techie stuff and developing the best in this and that without listening to what the customers want. Yeah, listen to what the customers want and provide a solution to their problems. Don't create problems that match your high-tech solution.
Yeah.
Because that's hiding to nothing. You're just sitting around the room looking smart, but you're burning up cash. And software companies burn up a lot of cash very quickly. They all employ their old friends. Oh, you were good at university at maths. You can be a finance director, and you can be the so-and-so director, and you can be this director, and you're all going to be on massive salaries, and you're all going to get travel allowance. And so they burn up a lot of cash before they've got money coming in. So they need to listen to customers and what is the best product. And if you look at some of the best products in the world, no allegiance to any of them, Uber is a very simple product. It's a tech platform that connects people with cars and vehicles to people who need cars and vehicles. They don't own one vehicle, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Booking.com is a booking company that doesn't have any hotels or accommodation, but it's in the hospitality sector. So, sometimes you don't need massive capital to start a business. I didn't. I started literally on an idea, and I put the idea to some target customers and say, hey, what do you think about this? Is this a service you would use? If not, tell me what I would. Chop a bit off here, add a bit on there. So if that service was available, would you use it? Yeah, how much would you be willing to pay? I started to sell services from Bangalore at £99 for a team of 4 researchers into the UK. And everyone laughed at me. This is too cheap. Can't be good. Cheap Asian business. No, we don't trust you, Michael, even with your background. Well, what do you expect to pay? We expect to pay between £500 and £800 a day. I'll charge you £500 a day. Actually, we charge £490 a day, just for fun. And I suddenly got business from people who wouldn't buy my product at £99. Identical product. How ridiculous. Listen to your customers. They'll tell you what they want to buy. Stop designing products and trying to sell products that no one wants to buy.
If I may play devil's advocate, Michael, by taking the Uber example, from what I understand, when Uber did start, people did ridicule them, thinking, oh, no one's going to get into a stranger's car. No one's ever going to book it on an app and trust that it'll be safe. Women are not going to do this, especially. But a company like that, which became a unicorn, went away from what customers thought that they wanted. And once they did build the product and the service, customers came flocking. If you want to build a business that's highly innovative, very unique, very different, isn't that the norm? Isn't that usual?
It's not the norm. And if you get it right, and you're the 1 in 10 who does get it right, I think you absolutely is the right way. Glover Daniels, when it started, I said we were the world's first search for search company, headhunting. No one had ever done it. But I passionately believed that I could do it. And that's when I did it. But there was a high risk because no one taught me to. I taught myself into boardrooms purely out of curiosity. Who's this guy with a funny surname who seems to think he can sell a search service to a search company? Let's have him in and have a bit of fun with him. I don't care. I was in their boardroom. And because I prepared very well, I shot them down and made them realize they needed my service.
Right.
And my fee matched their fee structure. Why wouldn't it? Well, because we're a search company, so are we. So you can do it and you can be creative, but that's the high risk element. I have 2 daughters live in London. They use Uber all the time. I actually think they're safer getting into an Uber than picking a driver off the street.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who those drivers are and where, and they've got no way of tracing them or whatever. But you're right, people don't like change, but sometimes the best ways are to be innovative, are to be creative. But you've got to watch how far away from the norm you get, because if you get too far away from what people accept to buy, and I think the lockdown here showed it when we all had to suddenly do online shopping. A friend of mine works at Kiehl's. He said we were used to having 500 customers a month using our online shopping platform, because most people, it was a bit of a alien concept for them to do their shopping. We went from 500 a month to 5,000 a day, and our system couldn't cope. And then they caught up, and I think it's great. But now a lot of people do their shopping online, but it took a while, it took a lockdown for us to get there. So you can do it, but the problem is if you go too far, and I love innovative ideas, I love creative solutions to problems. If you've got to spend a lot of money educating people, then that's when the money comes in. That's when you burn up money in marketing.
Right.
Because you're having to educate people. Right. This is something new. This is what it does. This is why you need it, blah, blah, blah. As opposed to, there's a problem. Here's a solution in a different way. And this is why you need to use it. But you're used to the solution.
Right. Isn't it true that when you first came to Sri Lanka, you brought down the concept of co-working?
Not when I first came, 2016.
2016.
Yeah. I actually went to an entrepreneurs network here, CU Asia thing, and I actually wanted to go as an investor. I was going to retire then. I'm still working, and I wanted to go and pay it forward and put some money into 10 startups. Not necessarily make any money, but help with some business acumen, some funding, some marketing, some business strategy, and help 10. And if 1 or 2 made some money and I got my money back, that'd be great. But what I learned listening and talking to a lot of people at this business conference run by the ICTA, the government, brilliant conference at the Hilton, was the same thing kept coming up over and over again. We've got a great product, great service, but the infrastructure wasn't there. There was nowhere to work. There was no co-working spaces. Then there was one actually, Park 9 on Park Road. They had about 6 spaces, and we helped them fill their spaces through my Facebook group. But people were telling me the same problem over and over again. And they're working from coffee shops and back bedrooms and friends' garages. And I said, well, that's an easy to fix problem. So I actually went to see the government. And I said, you need to do something about this. This is an easy fix problem, but you can't develop a young community, an entrepreneurial climate in this country if you don't provide the infrastructure.
I bet they really took it to heart.
Yeah, the guy said to me laughingly, he said, and he was factually correct, we have no money. I said, we've just bought 224 cars for MPs, which I heard today they're going to do it again. Oh, that was great use of money.
I think so.
And I said, well, I don't support any political party at all. I don't trust anyone. But I said, well, that's probably why you got no money. And they said, no, maybe next year we'll do it, or the year after. This was 2016. I said, that is ludicrous. I said, that is criminal. Don't use the word criminal when you're meeting with the government. 2 governments ago, they didn't like that word being used. They took great exception to me using the word criminal. I wasn't calling them criminals. I said it is criminal if you don't do something. I said, look at the global world. Most economies, and this is before the Sri Lankan economy crashed, most economies were in slowdown or in recession, including Brazil, India, America, Russia. America had lots of problems. Europe, Australia. They were all in recession or teetering on the edge. Very little had growth. Look at Sri Lanka. We've come out of a 30-year war. We have very few legacy systems. 5G technology was available here then on test that wasn't available there. Fiber optic was readily available in Colombo area for sure. Things that we took for granted were not actually available to our competition. So I said, when you're in that situation, you have to put the foot to the gas and move. Because if, as we said earlier, 8 out of 10 startups fail in 18 months, you need to get a lot of startups going, because 8 out of 10 are going to fail. But you probably have 12 to 18 months. And I think historically, facts will show we're about right. About 2018, 2019, the rest of the world came out, well, then we had COVID, but it was coming out of recession, and COVID put us all into recession. But we had that window of opportunity. It was almost like the sun was shining on Sri Lanka, and it won't shine on us again. This was a once in a generation opportunity, and you're telling me you've got no money because you've just spent it on MPs' cars? I was furious, absolutely furious. Not with this guy, he was a very nice guy, but with the government. So I went home and cursed and swore, and my wife, who's used to, I met when she was 17, I was 18, a long time ago. She said, Michael, just shut up or do something about it, because I'm sick of you moaning about this and that, how this can't happen, how that can't happen. I said, okay. So I put my own money where my own big mouth is. I went to Singapore, America, the Netherlands, Switzerland, the UK, looking co-working industry, looking how we could adapt and improve that for Sri Lanka. There are differences here. Like co-live is very popular in Europe. But that, even now, culturally, if you're a 21, 23-year-old at home and you say, Mum, I'm going to go and live in this shared house, and there's 3 girls and 3 guys, we're all single, and we're going to run our businesses from there, Mum or Dad may have something to say about it. Yeah. What do you want, son? Yeah, they wouldn't allow it. Culturally, it wouldn't work. Yeah. And even now, sadly, it wouldn't work. For some it might work, for others it wouldn't. So I looked at how we could do it for Sri Lanka. And I said, okay, here's the deal. I'll put 10 million from my company into the business. I'll put 10 million of my own money on the line. I'll get it going. I'll show the government what to do, and then I'll hand over. I don't want to run co-worker spaces. I'm in the HR consulting world. But that's how you do it. Okay, so in 3 months, we opened 4 co-working spaces. Wow. Seemed a good idea at the time. Yep. I'd never opened 4 businesses at the same, negotiating 4 leases, fitting them out, negotiating on telecoms and Wi-Fi's and infrastructure and access, CCTV, you name it, from beginning to end for these empty offices. We did it, 4 in 3 months. And the idea was to open them all over the country. My accountant just recently said to me, Michael, do you know how much you actually did invest? I said, do I want to know? He said 62 million.
Oh,
And I sold the business to a friend when I got very sick a couple of years ago for 2.5 million. Not the best business deal I did, but that was my CSR gift to Sri Lanka. I said I wasn't looking for any money back on it.
right.
I wanted to create something, the infrastructure to allow people to do. So when we started, people said, oh, co-working. So we're coming to work for your business, Michael.
Right.
No. We had to educate them, back to your point, educate them what is co-working.
Yep.
And for those that don't know, co-working, you take a large business building like this building, you cut it in small bite-sized pieces, and you rent them out either per office or per desk, per month, per week, per hour, per day. I rent out the meeting room, and you provide the infrastructure, the reception, the kitchen, the cleaning service, security service. It's quite a straightforward model to do, actually. It's not that difficult to do. But people know Regus, or Regus as they call it here. It's a big international business of shared office services. And people would meet me at social events and say, Michael, yeah, you run Sri Lanka business centers. I said, yeah. You're like Regus. I said, no. Yeah, well, they're in the shared office space. Yeah, what do you do? I said, we create communities for entrepreneurs to be successful. That's what we do. They just rent office space. We happen to take a large building, chop it into bite-sized people, do it, But that was the whole point.
Yep.
We built community.
Community.
And I said, then I mean, my big mouth, my big ego, I said, if an international average is 8 out of 10 fail in 18 months, I will put my neck on the line and say, if 5 out of 10 businesses that work out of a Sri Lanka business center are still operating in 18 months, I'll take that as a success. 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'd love 10 out of 10, but that wasn't going to happen.
Sure.
Because I looked at why they're failing, and it's not money. I play poker with some very high net worth individuals, and they say to me, Michael, we would love to invest, but we can't find something to invest in. We don't mind startup capital. We don't mind seed capital. We're willing to take the risks. We don't want security, but we can't find something to invest in. So I spend most of my day listening to people telling me business pitches.
Business ideas, yeah.
So that's easy. We can fix that. And there are some things like Bank Angel Network, and there's some good models now that people can go and pitch their ideas.
Okay.
But I said, businesses are failing because techies are probably, I'm picking on techies, are probably not great at marketing their idea and selling their idea. They're just good at developing great product. Well, that's okay. I got a marketing director with 8 years experience in my group. He'll help you. No charge. Just say thank you, Michael. Finances. People are spending money they haven't got. They don't know the difference between a P&L and a cash flow. Well, you're going to get into trouble very quickly if you don't know the difference between a P&L and a cash flow. Yeah? I've got a finance director from the UK who's got 12 years experience. He can help you. No charge. Just say thank you, Michael. So by wrapping this safety blanket around people in our business, that we didn't want equity, we're not loaning you money, but we're giving you what we believe your business needs, which is financial help, marketing help, whatever, we can stop 5 out of 10 businesses failing. And we did.
Wow.
Lots of them have went on to outgrow the business center and take an office and employ 20, 30 people. None have become unicorns yet.
Yep.
A few people have said thank you, Michael, which is nice. But the reason why they were failing was, in my opinion, and still is the same, fairly simple business disciplines. I got together a network of people that would give their help pro bono just to give something back, just to pay it forward, and help somebody else on their journey. It's a fascinating journey, entrepreneurship. Fascinating. I love it. And someone taught me many, many years ago, and I'm not religious in any shape or form, it doesn't matter where you are on the ladder or where you think you're on the ladder. There's a very important difference. Reach down and help the next guy up one step. Just pull the next guy up one step. Help him. No money, because someone will help you. And people have pulled me up the ladder many times. And if we all had that attitude of helping people and paying it forward by giving advice, giving some space in your office, giving this and that, then we'll get businesses going without lots of capital. It's possible.
Are you a big believer in the 80-20 principle? So I assume you're touching on that a little bit because um, if you are to have 10 companies, maybe 2 of those companies are going to extract 80% of the value compared to all of it.
Pareto's law.
Yes.
Yeah. And that often is the case. But often Pareto's law is turned on its head.
Okay.
That you'll spend 80% of your time with 20% of your clients. Sorry, with some clients that actually generate 20% of your revenue instead of spending time with the ones that, give you the best opportunity for growth. And same with staff, same with everything. You can say the 80-20 in all sorts of situations. And I think the skill is knowing where to spend your time. I wish I had 24 hours a day more in my day, because I get a lot of calls on my time, but I don't have that amount of time. So I have to decide where to give my time, and where to give my efforts. And sometimes it's not where you think it is. Sometimes the biggest company, and again, a mistake startups make, they target the top 10 or top 20, finance companies in Sri Lanka. Well, they're not going to buy from you as a startup. You're wasting your time and effort. Go to the next level down or the next level down. Go and deal with another high growth company that will understand. They will be flexible on payment terms. They will be flexible. Actually, smaller companies tend to pay you on the nose when your invoice hits. Whereas other companies, I've had companies here that have said to me, Michael, our terms of business is 90 days. Well, that's really interesting, but you're dealing with my company and my terms of business are 30 days. I'm not dealing on your terms. And these are big companies that can be very arrogant. And if you want to sell to whoever, John Keel's group or whoever, not picking on them, you have to adhere to their terms or they won't do business with you.
Right.
Go and supply your product to a smaller group. He'll love it. And he'll love it if you're giving him your product exclusively in that area, whatever, and he'll pay you cash on delivery. And that helps your business. Yeah? And there's an example.
Sorry, now does that concept apply to any type of business, or are you speaking about a specific industry?
I think it applies to most. I think it applies to supply, manufacturing. I've always been in the service industry, so I don't make a product. I've always said it's ideal for me. I sell something I don't pay for. It's free, but I charge people to buy it, which is wonderful, which is not, it's information. It's on LinkedIn, it's on company websites, it's freely available. We don't hack anyone's computers or do anything illegal or unethical to get information. I was a policeman, a bit different to the cops here, but I was a policeman. So we won't do anything illegal or unethical to get information. But what we will do is get public accessible information and then package it in a way that clients want to read it in a report or an organization structure or whatever, and add some value to it with added value research and open web research. And then give that information as what's called a talent map to a client to say, this is your competitors in the marketplace, this is what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. Here's my fee. So it's a free product that I sell. I used to joke when I first went into headhunting, people would say, a dinner party, I'm a teacher, I'm an accountant, I'm a this or that. Never sit next to an accountant at a dinner party. Not the most interesting people. I actually sat next to a guy, what did he do? He said, we make auditors look interesting people. I can't remember. They work out the end value of your pension. I forgot what it is now. It'll come to me. But one of the things that that I did is I would say, I'm a body seller. What? I sell the most unreliable product ever. It doesn't come with a guarantee. There's no instruction manual. In fact, the only thing I can be sure of is the product that I sell is most likely to say and do the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. Oh my God, what do you do? I'm a body seller. Well, I'm a recruitment consultant, but that's what I do. I film people to jobs and jobs to people. So in my industry it worked, but I would say the same in a product thing. Probably there you've got to be more focused on your cash flow. If you have to buy product in and you've got fixed costs, my own thing was rent and salary costs and phone bill. The rest was profit. When I work from home, it was just my time. And when you work for yourself, time has a value, but it has no cost. So when we go back to startup costs, your time, you might be worth 800,000 rupees a month, or ₹1,000,000 a month in the marketplace, and you might need to earn 100,000 to cover your costs. But your time actually costs you nothing. If you want to work 20 hours a day and you want to work on Sundays, whatever, then do it. Entrepreneurs work 7 days a week. Employees work 5 days a week. Big difference. But let me give you an analogy, and you can cut this out if it's a long story. If I said to you, I'm going to make umbrellas, okay? Sri Lanka has some good umbrella companies. And I'm going to sell them into Europe, because in Europe it typically rains a lot, and the autumns and winters are quite wet and cold. So from about September through till March, we're going to make £1 million in sales. Sound good? Okay, I've got the orders, £1 million. And I've done my costing and my salaries and my electric bill and material costs is going to cost me £500,000. So we're going to make £500,000 profit. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Would you invest in my business?
Absolutely, I would.
Sounds good.
Yeah, great.
Because on a P&L, million sales, £500,000 costs,
Yeah.
£500,000 profit. Sounds great. However, this is where cash flow comes into it, because we've got to buy the materials. We've got to pay the staff to make all these umbrellas. We've got to ship them all out and get them into Europe before it gets cold and wet, which is in September. So we've got to be shipping them out in July and August. Everything that we've made, which we've had paid for. Not made a sale yet. No one's paid us anything yet. Yeah? And then we'll make the sales and we'll make the profit and we'll all be happy. But if you can't fund that thing, and there's probably a financial term for it. I'm not
Life cycle.
That's it.
Yeah.
You can't find the below the line, how much do you need to fund this before the sales come in and you start to make a profit. Guess what? September doesn't come. If you can't pay your bills in June or July, you go bankrupt. The lights go off. The staff don't come to work for you. The shipping agent won't take your order and send it before you can get those orders. Now will you invest in my business? Not so sure. The difference between a P&L and a cash flow. And the cash is the reality. So what you need to fund is not the 2 million in sales or the $500,000 in cost. What you need to fund is this part at the bottom. And then I used to say to people with a business plan, give me a worst case scenario and then add 20% to your costs.
Right. Can you
But
survive it?
Yeah. Can you survive it? But I gave my worst case. Yeah. Now put 20 because shit happens. Then take your expected sales, being pessimistic, and take 20% off them because shit happens. If you can still fund this bit, you've got a potentially profitable business. It's common sense to me, but not to most people.
Sure.
And that's the thing. And the advantage is, if you're an entrepreneur and you get it, you've got it that most people haven't got. Yeah. So you can get see an accountant, a lawyer, a bank manager. They're not going to tell you how to run your business.
No.
They'll tell you how to run your bank account and how to structure the company legally and whatever. But don't go and ask them how to run a business. If you want to learn how to run a business, go and talk to a business person. And I don't mean an employee of a business necessarily. Some might. Go and talk to an entrepreneur. Go and talk to an entrepreneur who's failed and ask them why they failed. I'll tell you why I've failed businesses. And I have failed and I've been successful. That's where you learn how to run a business.
Yeah. You'd never learn this in any course or any book, really.
I left school before A-levels.
So where do you think it came from? Like this thought process?
I don't know, to me it is obvious. And I've asked myself this question many times. I go out and look up at the sky and I can see the sun. And I can't understand why no one else can see the sun. To me, a lot of the solutions to problems are obvious. You know, and I think I mentioned the other day, Chanel, there was when I was up in Jaffna, I was doing a startup weekend up there. And if you've never done one of those, they are run by the government. If you go to them, because they're fantastic, they're free. You get 72 hours from Friday night till Sunday afternoon to launch a business with people you don't know, plan it, come up with a minimum viable product, pitch it to a group of judges, people like myself, that will give you creative advice, and you get a mentor through the weekend. Fantastic experience. But I went to Jaffna and I was the speaker up there. And I had a great idea.
This is post-war?
Huh?
This is recently?
This was before COVID, so probably about 2018.
Okay.
Yep. I think 2017, 2018. This business idea this group had come up with, he said, Michael, up here, it rains a lot, and other times of year it's incredibly hot. And we don't have the luxury of, proper bus stands like you have in Colombo. May have changed a little while since I've been up there, but he said typically that's the case. And buses come when the buses comes. So we have to go out and stand on the bus stand. It might be once an hour. And we might have to wait 45 minutes in the rain and in the sunshine waiting for this bus to come. Problem. Oh, sounds a big problem. What's your solution? And he said, well, we're going to devise an app. Everyone devises apps. 9 out of 10 startups devise apps. We're going to devise an app, and we're going to persuade the bus owners to put a GPS tracker on their bus. It's great for them because now they know where the buses are and when, the frequency and everything else. But now this app would tell me when I need to leave home. Now we're familiar with it with Pick Me. We know exactly where the vehicles come in and go out. The vehicle's going to be outside. But then it wasn't.
Right.
I said, that's a brilliant idea. Now we don't have to stand out in the rain and the heat. How are we going to fund it? Well, we're going to sell advertising by people who want to pitch their products and services to young people that might be going to university or whatever.
Right.
So it was a simple thing. And some of the best advice I give people is, or the advice I give to people, that the best ideas are simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't try and be too smart, because some of the best solutions are very simple solutions. And if you get it and you solve a problem, if you have a real problem, then other people might be having that problem. Ask around your network if that, what would the solution be? So if we could come up with a solution for that, would you use it? Would you buy it? How much would you pay for it? Do your research. So many people start businesses and they've not done any research.
When you do start a business, at what point do you know whether to go all in on that business? Because that is something entrepreneurs generally talk about, that we went all in on it. We took the risk, we did it, regardless of what our parents said, regardless of what our friends said. At what point do you say, you know what, I'm going all in?
I would say they're the majority in the 9 out of 10 that fail. Because there's no reason to go all in.
Right.
And I told you I play poker.
Yes.
And that's a saying, to go all in. You don't need to go all in, because all in means it's shit or bust. You're either going to make it or you're not.
Yep.
You don't need to take that risk. The same in poker. Sometimes you can just say, I'm going to sit this one out. I think I've got a really good hand. I think I've got a really good chance. And I'll bet to a certain point, but then I'm going to get out.
Right.
Because it's too expensive. And in business, you don't need to go all in. I don't think you need to spread the risk.
So what does that mean in a practical sense? What does that mean to not go all in then, in that scenario?
The best businesses go slowly and then you pin it. Go slowly and pin it. When I won this big contract, I had 12 staff that had been with me 3 months. My wife had come back to the UK. And then I needed to employ 14 new people. So we grew from 12, which was still in probation, to 26. But I had a big contract to underpin it. Had I have grown, and the problem is one company wanted to buy us, they offered me £1 million for our business. And I said no. Seemed a good idea at the time. Would have bought a lot of soup bones. I said no, because culturally I didn't believe that they would treat my staff right. And that was me thinking with the heart, not from the brain. I'd have done very well out of it. But they were asking me too many questions about, what was in my secret sauce, not what we did with it. They wanted us to grow from then 30 staff to 100 staff within a matter of months. And I wasn't willing to do that, because we would have sacrificed quality if we brought in an inexperienced team to just have growth for growth's sake. And that's where a lot of people fail. They want growth for growth's sake. No, focus on profit. Focus on the profitability. You can't spend turnover. People do, but you shouldn't spend turnover. Spend profit. Make profit, spend it, reinvest it. Don't take a big salary. Don't take, I used to say I was the poorest paid person in the whole company. The cleaner earned more money than me because the cleaner got a salary.
Yeah.
I didn't. I got director's fees, what was left, and sometimes it was a lot. Sometimes it was nothing. Sometimes having to put 2 million from my bank account to pay the wages, because that's the joy of being 100% shareholder of the business. But don't spend money you haven't got. Create it, create the thing, and then, because if you focus on creating value in a business, then I think the money follows. And then you have your nice car. I've had lovely cars and lovely houses and business cars. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But you have to earn the right to have those things. And we used to see in the business center all the time. Within the first 6 months, 12 months, fancy cars were coming up and everything else. And you just think, no, guys, no. Why are you doing this? You're just on an ego trip instead of building value. And some of the best businesses have been around for a long time, but some new businesses that weren't around. And I saw a list recently, companies that were not around in the last recession.
Right.
WhatsApp is one of them. Could you imagine living without WhatsApp?
Yeah.
No. I think Uber, Twitter, companies that were just not around in the last recession that we just take as absolute norm now.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity for new businesses, but build a house with bricks upon bricks, I think,
Right.
as opposed to building. Some companies need to grow fast. They need to take in lots of investment money. They need to take in risk capital. I accept that. But I've never run a business like that.
Of that sort.
So I can't comment on.
Sure.
What kind of businesses would that be exactly?
If you're growing, let's say you are going to grow a business and you are going to need a lot of staff to develop that, then you've got to rent a big office and you've got to pay rent and you've got to pay salaries and you've got to buy computers. You know, we went and bought 12 computers. And I said to my young guy, I said, I haven't got the time to see all these sales guys. You see them and just come back to me with 3 proposals and tell me why for each one, A, B, or C. So he did that and we sat him down, super guy, he's in Australia now. And he said, well, he gave me the proposal. I said, I'm not going to read them. Tell me, which one do you recommend? B, why? Well, because B does what we want and it's kind of in the ballpark, within the budget, a bit more than we want to spend, but it's got potential for growth, blah, blah, blah. Okay, why don't we go for A? A's cheap, but I think we'd outgrow it very quickly and we'd have to rebuy new computers and everything because the software that they had was not compatible. Okay. C, yeah, C's great, lots of whistles and bells. I don't think we need it, a lot of money for nothing. I said, okay, so if it was your money, I said, how much is B? He said, 4.1 million. This is 2010. This guy's been at university 3 months, okay? And I said, it's not your uncle's company? He said, no. I said, I'll check. If it is, there'll be trouble. I don't mind if it is, just tell me, is it your uncle's company? No. I said, fine. So if it's your money, he said, I've got 4 million. I said, no, but if it was, and you had it, you'd choose B. Yeah. Is that an honest answer? Yeah. Go and place the order. But you've not even read the proposal. I said, no. You have, I hope. He said, yeah. I said, that's fine. I trust you. Trust your judgment. And it's something that I've told, several people I play poker with. Why do you believe that people have to be 40 to know all the answers? I employ people, first, second jobbers, smart people, good English, good education from overseas degrees normally, that haven't worked out how not to do it. They've not worked out how to fail. Therefore, they will find a way to make it work. And it's a high risk. I did read the proposal when he left the room. Just quickly click through. But the point was, I'd already made the decision to place the order. Is give people an opportunity. A friend of mine worked for, I won't name the company, but a very big conglomerate here.
I think you should name the company.
Do you think I should?
I think you should name the company.
Okay, so he worked for Keels.
Okay.
And there was another one worked for Salon Tobacco, exactly the same experience. Very hard to get into. They call them the golden birdcage.
Right.
Because they pay so well, you can't afford to leave them. They're paying graduates $100,000 a month that have never done a day's work in their life.
Right.
But very hard to get in. The top people in all the course, the APIT toppers and whatever. Okay, now sit there and shut up for 5 years and do what you're told. But now just shut up. You know nothing. You're just in the business. So after 5 years, they come up for assistant manager. Okay, we'll make you assistant manager. Now shut up for 3 years. By the time they get to management, all the entrepreneurism, all the energy, the passion, the vision has been sucked dry out of them. Whereas I used to say to people, it's okay to screw up here. It's fine. It's not Disneyland. It's a commercial business, but it's work hard, have fun, make a difference. It's okay to make mistakes. There's enough people around us to pick up that mistake if we need to. Yeah. So we created a safe environment for people to go and spend 4.5 million of my money on computers and to do this and do that. So we're not flying airplanes. We're not operating on people. No one will die, hopefully, if you make a mistake. And so long as you learn from that mistake and you put your hands up and say, Michael, I've made a mistake, because I make mistakes, and I'll say, hey, I've screwed up, guys. You know, we had a thing not too long ago. I'd misread the email. I thought that we were going to start the project on a Wednesday. The client was expecting the project on a Wednesday, and it was a big project. So I just got off a call with him. Michael, just checking we're okay for tomorrow for this this project, which is like a 5-day project. And I go, yeah, we've got a couple of techie issues at the minute, but let me just get back to you. And I went out and said, guys, I have screwed up. I misread an email, blah, blah, blah. I had 42 researchers. And they just said, get the pizzas in, Michael. It's going to be a late night. And we did. We never paid overtime. Put everyone in taxis to go home. But because they cared, they had passion about our customers. They weren't my customers, their customers.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do it right. We turned it around with 16 researchers working together. We turned the project around and turbo boosted it. The client was none the wiser. Actually, we delivered early.
Wow.
So it's creating that environment in your business, creating that, I want to be part of this journey.
How do you do that?
I think you've got to be honest. You've got to be, we had a thing, mnemonic in our business, that we used to call our DNA, and my team came up with this, not me. I said, what's us? What's our DNA? What represents us? And they came up with the word thrill, trust, honor, respect, integrity, old-fashioned words, loyalty. And I got fed up with people telling me thrill was spelled with 2 L's. I said, I'm actually quite good with English. Yeah, but it was, the mnemonic was THRIL. So I said, we're going to come up with another L, guys. I'm so fed up with people telling me thrill's got 2 L's. So they came up with longevity. We plan for the long term. We want long-term business relationships. I still have clients now that did business with me 25 years ago because they trust me.
Yeah.
I'd be called into what we used to call the beauty parade to go and pitch for business for a client we've already got. Happens in the advertising world all the time. And they'd say, but so-and-so is 30% cheaper than you, Michael. Oh, really? It's interesting. How was your weekend? How was the golf? Yeah, well, aren't you going to match? No, I'm not going to match them. I know your business as well as you do. Why should I drop my fees for a company to match a company that doesn't know your business and is untested?
Yeah.
No chance. You know the value we add to your business, and it doesn't come cheap. We're probably 3 times more expensive than most other research companies in the world. And I quite like that position. Good things no cheap, cheap things no good. So, you know, I say to people, if you can't afford or don't want to spend money on us, I'll give you names in companies in India and Philippines that are a lot cheaper than us, and Eastern Europe now. But if you want to deal with a British company based in Asia, with all the advantages our timeline gives us, 5.5 hours ahead of GMT, 5.5 hours behind Sydney, 2.5 ahead of Dubai, 2.5 behind Hong Kong, Singapore, the India-Sri Lanka timeline is unique in the world. It is the center of the world as far as business. Can't forget the USA for now. But if you take Ireland and New Zealand, Sri Lanka, India's timeline is the center point. So you can create that. So we had a long-term relationship. We had personal career development plans for every member of staff. Not everyone wants to be a manager. One of my best researchers, when you mention the word manager to her, you know, and responsibility, she took massive steps back. She'd been with me 12 years. Only just left.
Wow.
12 years she'd been with me. Another one 8 years. And she wanted to be a manager. And she joined me at 18. So by 26, she's managing someone who came from Sri Lankan Airlines who didn't want to be a manager, but was so reliable and trustworthy. She was like my right arm. She organized my life for me. So find out what people want and give them what they want. Get them to put, the Americans have a saying, put some skin in the game.
Right.
Come in, feel, the trust, honor, respect, integrity, loyalty, longevity. And then you create something that people want to be a part of. People would cry when they left our business, because they've been headhunted out on 3 times more salary than we were paying. And I said, that's okay, son. It's time for you to leave the nest. You've done great, but now you've got 2 years experience with us. Someone's seen the potential. I'd be a hypocrite to get upset by that because that's what we do for a living. We charge people to headhunt staff. Good luck. Stay in touch. We have a WhatsApp group of ex-Glover Daniels staff that are still in touch. They're in Sweden, Canada, America, Australia, Sri Lanka, in top positions, married with kids. And they say the Glover Daniels experience was solid. And it was tough love sometimes, tough love. Why do you come in here late and with a hangover and not shaven? That's not the way you do business. That's not showing respect to me. I don't do it to you. So why should you do it to me and your colleagues? That's not the way we conduct business. So, because they'd never worked. They'd come out of university or school, so we had to teach them how to behave. If we start work at 9, you don't come in at 5 to 9 and then go to the bathroom and then go and get your coffee and then check your emails, then chat about the cricket with your buddies and start work at 9:30. That's not honourable. That's not ethical. Come in at 8:30 and do all of that and then go. If your friend's in town, don't automatically take an hour and a half for lunch. Show some respect to your manager and ask, would it be okay if I have a long lunch? I'll make it up later or whatever. I said, when we set Glover Daniels up, my wife had been in a bullying situation in work, which is the worst ever, where you don't want to go to work because you're bullied, not respected and not treated. A lot of people will relate to this. They're not respected in their workplace, which I think is horrendous. I said, and I've been made redundant 3 times, not for any fault of my own. One company got rid of all their salaried sales staff and went to commission-only salespeople.
Prior to
In the UK.
starting entrepreneurship.
And I said, but if you've ever been made redundant, when you get the DCM, the medal, don't come Monday.
Yep.
I had a company car, leave the keys, someone will drop you off at the station. Bye. You feel like a body blow. Someone's thumped you in the stomach. You're winded. You feel horrible. And after the 3rd time, I said, you know what? No one is ever going to have that effect on my life, create that power of my life ever again.
That was your turning point?
Yeah. That's when I decided in 1999 to set up Glover Daniels International from my back kitchen with one staff who was our babysitter. And I said, I've got this crazy idea that this is what I'm going to do. And, 10 years, we had a fantastic living off it. But I could go bankrupt, but that's down to me. The sun is shining, get up and go and start running and make money. Or don't, lay in bed and play games all day. Your choice, your choice. But no one is ever going to make me redundant or sack me again, because that is a control no one's going to have over my life, and they never did. I never worked for anyone else ever again. But I said to my wife, who was my research manager, I said, we have the opportunity here to create a company where we'd like to go and work. Wouldn't that be amazing? Where you get treated like an adult. No one micromanages you. If it's bad news, I say to my team, if we screw up, we all know about the screw up. We take joint responsibility. Ours is not the Sri Lankan way. That's why people like to come and work for us. This blame culture. It's your fault. Someone's got to be responsible. My bank has more letters of authority than ever because they're covering their arse all the time, because it's a blame culture. No one takes responsibility and accountability. So I said, let's create a company where we would like to go and work, where we don't take silly risks with money. We pay livable salaries, but we pay fantastic bonuses and performance bonuses. Come in, put some skin in the game, get in, help make some money, and guess what? We'll all share the money. I paid my operations manager, who was 26 at the time. She'd been with me 8 years. So this is going back a while. So this would have been in 2018. I paid her 800,000 bonus one quarter. And people said, that's crazy, And they used to say, my friends would say, how can you go to the UK for 2 weeks and leave a 26-year-old running your business? Why not? She's worked with me for 8 years. She knows the level of authority. I'm never normally more than 10 hours out of reach on a phone. And even now with Wi-Fi on planes, I'm reachable. But you don't trust people to make mistakes. Let them make mistakes. Let them learn from the mistakes, because that's how you grow a team where they feel passionate about the journey you're going on. They go on the journey with you. And if you're an entrepreneur trying to start a business, try and get people that think like you.
Right.
Don't employ people like you. I'd kill someone like me in my business. I say, Rupert, what ego? And I've got it. But they create people with alternative, complementary skills in a business, not just your best friend.
Right.
That you both did the same degree course and you both did this and both did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because that building can be knocked over.
Yeah.
Pyramids last a long time. Why? Because they've got a very broad base.
You want people to complement each other
Yeah.
with their strengths. I want to dig deeper into what your transition was like. You said it was a real punch in the gut when you got fired for the third time. You said no more. What was that transition like to go from being an employee, multiple companies, to suddenly a switch of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and take a risk? And what did your family think of that?
Terrifying. You lose the salary. You lose the car. You've got no guaranteed income whatsoever. And I did it at a time when I didn't have heaps of saving. If you're smart, you build up not 3 months of overhead, 6 months of overhead, because shit happens. So if you say, look, I need minimum 100,000 rupees a month to just survive, I can survive on that. Okay, then make sure you've got 600 in the bank before you make the leap. But you don't always have that choice. Sometimes you have to jump when you've got 1 month or 2 months. And if anyone's ever heard me talk at startup weekends, they'll hear me tell a story, and it's a true story, that we were so hard up, we had no money, we had 2 young children, very young children, that my wife went to the butcher and got bones for the dog. And I'm sure the butcher knew that we didn't have a dog. I'm sure it was a small village, because he would leave a little bit more meat on the bones than he normally would. And she got this soup pack, which then was 50 pence. There was a potato, a carrot, and a swede, which is like a turnip sort of thing. And she made a soup stew with these bones that lasted for three days, basically. And she'd just keep putting water in. Didn't have bread, couldn't afford bread. And
This is right after you got fired?
No, soon after. We'd run out of the money.
Right.
And it was a case of, well, it can't go any further down than, soup bones and bones for the dog. So when people see me flying business class or living in a 6-bedroom house with a, swimming pool, Santa Claus didn't bring it. I got up in the morning and I went running and started chasing the dollar.
I mean, that kind of life, Michael, to, the fact that your wife went through that with you is amazing. It's beautiful. It really is. Not a lot of people have that. I want to bring this more culturally, specifically tied to Sri Lanka. Most people don't start businesses here purely out of fear. Fear of, society, their parents, their friends shutting them out. And that is a very real problem here. Your parents cutting you out if you go against. Do you have any advice for people here on that?
You're right. And I think that is probably one of the biggest reasons that Sri Lanka doesn't go on. Whereas India, it isn't. And yet we're very close. And yet you'd think, if you're in India and you say you're an entrepreneur, and they have lots of doctors and engineers, but it's regarded as it's quite a status symbol. My son is an entrepreneur. He started the business.
Yes.
Yeah. Here, even after having a business for 5 years, my mother would say,
you could be successful, but
very nice son, but when are you going to get a real job? Because to her, a real job meant I was paid a salary.
Yeah.
But Mum, I employ 42 people. I run 7 companies, and I make a lot of money. Yes, son. But
not too late to be a lawyer.
Not a real job.
Not too late.
Exactly. She was a Sri Lankan mother, God rest her soul. But she was a Sri Lankan mother. And I think until we change that, and then how do we change it? I don't know the answer to that. I think it'll be very difficult, because it is normal where people will say, okay, you go and get a government job, or you join a bank, or become a lawyer or a doctor. Nothing wrong with those. We all need lawyers and doctors. But I grew up in a Sri Lankan household in England, so we kind of had the best of both. And I was the youngest of 3 boys, so we had teenager, attitude. We were allowed to say what we want. But it was similar to here. And I don't know whether your weekends is like this, but you meet up with the family and the uncles will come and the arak comes out. And, son, one day I'm going to start a business, and one day I'm going to do this, and one day, and they spend the whole night talking about what they're going to do. My father was no different. But what do they do on Monday? They go back to the same boring job, the same thing, and they're the hamster in the wheel going round and round. The next weekend, they get the AMAC out and they start talking about what they're going to do. And a lot of people do that. So someone like me who takes a step forward, I'm already ahead of them. So if you just take one baby step towards your business idea, you don't have to leave your job. You can do this on the side in your evenings and weekends, put some skin in the game, make time for yourself, for your business, while someone else paying your salary. That's the best way to do it. Not on their time, that's unethical, but on your own time, start it. Because if you just take one baby step, even thinking about your business, at the end of the day, you're one step ahead of most other people you'll meet. At the end of the week, you're 7 days ahead. Because remember, entrepreneurs think 7 days, employees work 5 days. At the end of the month, you are 30 steps towards making your business a reality, and 9 out of 10 people that you will meet just talk about what they're going to achieve in life. They just talk about it. Some of the best people tell me, the majority of people advising me about my business and how I can do things better and wrong have never run a business. They wouldn't dare run a business. I've got the security of unemployment. Do you know what job security is? Yeah, 1 month or 3 months notice. That's job security. Because I've learned the hard way. I had job security. I was a sales director, earning a big salary and a big team. And they decided in another country, we're all going to commission-only sales agents. And I couldn't do it because I had a mortgage and kids. I couldn't afford to do it. So choose who you take the advice from, but just take baby steps towards your business and you'll do it. But we have to change the culture that it's okay to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to be, to start your own business, to be the leader at 25 and 26. Why not? Do it at 21. Start a business. Because that's the time when you can fail, because you've got the family safety net. And you've got to have that conversation with the family and just say, listen, just trust me. I've never let you down yet. I've got a great idea. I've done my research. It's not a lot of money, but I'm going to do this, and this is what I want to do, and this is where it could lead to. Have that conversation.
Some people might be listening to this, Michael, and thinking, this sounds great, if this goes well, but I don't know if I want to go to the butcher and get dog bones and eat dog bones for a month. And am I really willing to do all that? Do I really want that? I should just listen to my mom and dad and just...
Correct. In which case, if you're not prepared to go all in and to take the ultimate risk and to jump in with both feet, there's a saying, you'll never discover new oceans if you not have the confidence to let go of the shore. If you're always holding on to the shore, you're never going to do anything. Then stay as an employee, because that makes it easier for me and people like me to start businesses.
Less competition.
There's less competition. Yeah. So that's great.
Do you think there's a point in your life where you get to an age where you probably should not even think about starting a business? Or does that depend on the person and their personality?
No. One of the surprising things came out of my research for co-working when I went to Atlanta in the USA is I looked at co-working spaces there and the WeWork model and quite a few of them. The average age for people running startup businesses in the States was actually 38, not 21. So when I was here, I used to say, I sat on a committee with the ICTA advising part of the government about entrepreneurism. I said, can we stop using the term young entrepreneur? It doesn't have to be young entrepreneur. Let's just call them entrepreneurs. Because the best time actually to start your business, if you can, is when you have got management experience. A lot of people were retrenched after COVID. A lot of people even now economically in this country are contacting me and telling me, I can't find a job and whatever, but I've got 20 years business experience. I can't afford to retire and I've got overheads. Well, actually, that's a great time to start a business because you've got all the experience. You're used to making decisions. You know about profit and loss and cash flow. You know about how to control the money.
But unless they have been in a company all their life and have been ingrained with the employee mindset, that's a very big obstacle.
Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, and that's the point. It's not a one size fits all. I would say there's probably only 10% of the people, the population could do it.
What's the skill that 10% have that the others don't?
I think it's self-belief, not blind belief. You can look in the mirror and say, Michael, you're wonderful, blah, 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 you're great. And, the mirror tells me what I want to hear. don't ask. I always say, if you want to run a business, don't ask. Family and friends will either say yes, wonderful, we'll come to your restaurant and we'll eat your food and we won't pay the bill and then we'll go, and that often happens. Or we'll say you're wonderful, wonderful, but then we're not going to use your service anymore. Or parents are going to say don't do it, or they'll say yes, go and do it. But they're biased. You need to talk to people who are not biased about your business idea. And that's where the business center helped.
Right.
And we used to run these once a month. Come along, I'll put food and drink on, I'll get some interesting speakers and just listen. Go along and listen to things. They still have one once a month. I can't remember what it's called now, at Barefoot, particularly for the tech community. Free, you buy your own beer and drink, but some of them have sponsors. But there's some very interesting people that go and talk and just listen. So put yourself in that world and socialize with entrepreneurs, people who don't tell you how it can't happen and how it won't happen, but about how it might happen, about how it might work. One of the things I say, I grew up in England and I don't speak Sinhala, but I tell you why I don't think it's happening in this country, if I may, Shana,
Yes.
is the attitude of I might fail. Matabaha, is it?
Matabe.
Matabaha?
Matabe.
I can't.
Matabaha. I can't.
I can't.
And that's so much, you hear it so often. Matabaha, Matabaha. If I ask you, we talked about Uber. Do you know where Uber is headquartered?
Yeah.
I know the answer, so I'll let you go first.
It's not so, no.
It's a trick,
Please go.
Which
go
country?
Guess. Just guess.
A lot of people say Germany. Okay, it sounds Uber, like over. It's actually the USA. Okay, have you heard of Booking.com?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, they lead their market. They're world leaders. Do you know where they're headquartered?
US.
No, Amsterdam. You heard of TripAdvisor?
Of course.
Where are they headquartered?
UK?
No, I think they're US.
That's 0 out of 3.
Just guess US, you'll be fine. We'll get there eventually. The point that I make is, why can't, and they're all world leaders, yeah? Why can't any of those be based in Sri Lanka? Normally when I say that, people laugh and think I'm joking. So I say it again, why can't any of the world leaders of a particular business, because we don't have one to the best of my knowledge, we have some really good world-class businesses, Sparcelon, Dilmati, MAS, they are great world-class businesses, but they're not the leaders.
We don't have a unicorn.
We don't have a leader. Unicorn's $1 billion business, but we don't have a leader in their sector, do we? That's Sri Lanka.
Is that true?
I can't
Wow.
think of one
Neither can I.
that leads its sector, like Uber, like Booking.com.
No.
But they are service businesses. They could be run from anywhere in the world, including Sri Lanka. And we have the unique timeline, and we have the low salary costs, and we have the infrastructure that is leapfrogged after a 30-year war. We had no legacy system. So I ask again, why are they not coming here? Why is no Sri Lankan starting a business that is a world leader? Matabaha. I might fail. So I started a campaign years ago to say, can everyone just leave this meeting and put on their Facebook page or LinkedIn page? I heard this crazy English guy talking the other day, #Matapuluwan. I used to know it in Tamil. I can't remember what it is now. Apologies for our Tamil viewers. I can do it. Not, is the glass half full, half empty? If you have that attitude that you can make something happen, often, even if it's a mediocre business idea, you can still make it happen. You can still find a way around to make it happen. Because it's not normally the successful business is not normally what they started doing. You evolve as you go through the business. I never planned to open a global research business based in Sri Lanka. No, I started doing something completely different, and I evolved into where we are now. So you can do it, but I think the biggest problem Sri Lanka has is the attitude. Now, it might be family, and some families you have to listen to what the parents say. Others you can challenge them, depends on your family. I was always lucky. My parents lived in Spain, but also they trusted me that I was able to make decisions, and generally the right decisions. But until we change that lifestyle, we will never have a world leader. And there's no reason why we can't. Same population as Australia, a better location than Australia. It's criminal, isn't it? When you think about it, it's absolutely criminal. I'm using that word again. It's sad that we haven't done that, and government spending money on new cars for MPs. It doesn't need a lot of money to create a co-work space. I say, give me the accommodation. I'll pay a rent, but just give me some of your empty offices. No, can't do that. No, too much difficulty process, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what, I'll just put my money. I'll make it happen. I'll show you how to do it. And we did.
You have the cultural aspect of things, Mattabaya, and then you have how much of it is attributed to bureaucracy and red tape and corruption within the state. Like you said, they say we don't have money because we spend it on cars. But sorry, we don't have money for venture capitalism to build maybe thousands of million-dollar companies like you once told me privately, rather than focusing on one little thing.
I was the lone voice on a committee of 18 people where they wanted to create the first Sri Lankan unicorn, which is $1 billion business. And I said, that's absolute stupidity. And I would not be persuaded otherwise. Let's create 100 businesses that are worth $1 million. Let's create, 1,000 businesses that are worth less, that all pay tax and employ people who spend money. That to me is how you go with it, not just focus on one hit or miss.
Are you really telling me there was a committee of people who decided to spend money on one particular company to make them a unicorn?
Not one company. They were creating the process and the infrastructure that would support just one company. They would find that one company and back that one company.
To become a unicorn?
Yeah, nothing wrong with unicorns, fantastic. But
absolutely,
not at the expense of, and it's a
Everything,
very high risk. Again, if you go back to playing poker, it's a very, very high risk game. Unless you are guaranteed that you have the best hand, the nuts, you might have the second best or the third best, but you can still be beaten.
But that makes zero sense. I'm assuming that obviously there was a bit of corruption there. Someone was connected to someone. I'm assuming. Let's just say.
I would not like to
no
say
comment.
Was, but I stopped wasting my time going to those meetings. It's a free.
Sounds criminal.
I was wasting my time.
Yeah.
You said that. I never said that.
No, I'll say it. Sounds absolutely criminal.
I don't think it's criminal. I think it's short-sighted. I think, and I think going back to this thing, I don't ever deal with the government departments. I don't want to do any business with government. There was a point when I wouldn't do any business in Sri Lanka. We didn't do any recruitment. One of my buddies at poker tricked me. He said, why won't you do recruitment here? I said, because I earn 30% of an annual salary on a UK salary, £30,000 fee. You guys want to pay 8.33 of a once a month salary of a monthly fee, which is like, 80,000 fee. And he said, well, how much do you want? I need a finance director and I'm not getting one. And just off the top of my head, so £1 million rupees my fee would be. He said, okay, done. I said, you swine, you tricked me. So we started to do business locally. And again, focused just on the board or the board -1 positions, very, very senior positions. But I think, when I said the best export is from Sri Lanka is the people, don't look to do business here. Just be based here. Look to do business elsewhere.
How would you go about doing that as a Sri Lankan that, say, has never gone out of the country? How do you, and you have that entrepreneurial mindset, you have everything. How do you go about actually servicing other countries?
The internet's a wonderful thing. If people aren't on LinkedIn, that's the first thing they should do. And then use their LinkedIn. I have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. And if anyone watching this wants to connect with me, I'll happily connect and open up my network. Somebody in my network might be useful for them. So, the offer's there. But connect with people and say, hey, we've not spoken before, but I noticed you in this. I've got a great idea product. Could I book a time to talk to you? This or that. You've got to knock the doors, and it's not easy. It's not going to come like Santa Claus. You've got to do the work. But you don't have to get on a plane anymore and fly anywhere. I mean, COVID taught us that. I used to fly 45 times a year. Luckily, I love flying, and because I'm old and fat, I flew business class because I got a gold card. So I, had the luxury. But you don't have to these days. I can speak to people in the US and Australia and the UK in the same day, just like that. I don't need to get on a plane and talk to people anymore. So you don't have to. But find people that'll help you. Find people that'll open doors for you. There is a massive diaspora here that still want to help, and I'm not talking politically, that want to help Sri Lankans here, but they're not going to come back yet. They're not going to invest yet, but they will help you. Search them out. Hey, Uncle so-and-so, I notice you're in Toronto. I've got a great idea, but I need to supply to XYZ. Can you help me?
So just throw mud at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, or be smart.
Be smart about it.
Network.
Network.
I call it positive networking. You should always be networking. Talk to people, ask them to help you. I get emails and messages almost daily from young graduates that are just starting off, and would I join networks with them? Do I know anyone who might be able to do this or that? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if I don't, I try and say, well, I can't help you, but maybe this person can help you. Try it. My inbox will be flooded now with graduates. But there are people there, and there are people often in your network or your parents' network or your friends' network that once you start looking who's there, and it comes back to police days. When you solve a crime, often the solution is not the first contact you make. It's normally that gives you information about something else, which gives you information about something else. And it's normally the third link in the chain. I don't know why, but statistically, the third link in the chain is often the one that has the key to the problem.
Right.
Yeah. So you need to work the chain. You need to talk to people. And I say, if you're not even if you're working for yourself, send 5 connection requests a day. It'll take you half an hour. Yeah. Invest in yourself. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, invest in yourself, grow your network with people, not that you're at university with, that's great, but people that might be able to help you, might be able to add value, might be working in a sector you're interested in, might be in a country you'd like to find out more about. And just connect with them. But don't just fire off connection requests. Send a message. Hi, Michael, I saw your profile and I'd love to connect you because I'm interested in. Now I'm more likely to accept that than just these blind connections from someone I've got no idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Your company spoke about longevity. Like that was one of your core tenets. How do you maintain longevity? Like really, like that, because wouldn't you say business life in general is very up and down roller coaster? How do you maintain that?
You do, and I think if you keep focused on the quality, like ours has always been a total excellence culture. We focus on excellence. The saying in our business was, excellence will be tolerated, nothing else is acceptable. When I send an invoice out, I want the clients to pay 100% of our invoice with a smile on their face. We've delivered, we've over-delivered, we've under-promised, over-delivered. We've given them 120% what they expected. They're very happy to pay our invoice very quickly on 100%. So therefore, I don't accept 98%. I say to people, my company is the easiest company you will ever join. Because I promise you one thing, from day one, I will never move the goalpost. Promise you that. Because my minimum acceptance is 100%. 100% effort, 100% honesty, 100% integrity. If you can't promise me that, don't join my business, because I'm never going to make it 98% or 96% or 85%. I'm never going to do it. It's always going to be 100%, because I want the clients to pay 100%. That's how we create total excellence culture.
Right.
Everyone believes in the journey we're going on. But the journey changes over the years, and what you start off doing and what you're going on to do can often be very different. Yeah. I don't know if you know the story of Airbnb. Yeah. Can I tell that story briefly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, you've heard of Airbnb?
Yeah.
Do you know how they started? Fascinating story. 2 young students, they were at college, at university. There was a rock band coming to town, and all the accommodation, had, affordable accommodation had all been sold up. And they'd found on social media that people couldn't have anywhere to stay. So they literally went down to Walmart, got a couple of airbeds, Airbnb, and they let people sleep in their lounge, and they gave them breakfast, Airbnb. And they made a few dollars and thought, well, that's good. And they rolled up the airbeds and put it away. And then the next group came to town, they did this, and they got a couple of their mates, hey guys, we're on to this, blah, blah, blah. I'll give you someone, you give me $1 of the fee, and we'll do that. And then they worked out, well, hey, this is great. Why don't we follow the bands? If they're going from here to the next town, we can get other students and say, listen, if you do this, this is what works, and to use our service, we'll give you the platform. They can book the accommodation through you, through us, and we want $2. That is how Airbnb started. I've seen the original pitch deck when they were raising money. That's not what they do now. They're a multi-billion-dollar business. But it started from two people selling space. Problem, solution. They found a solution to a problem and they market it. But then as you grow with longevity, your business will grow. Your business changes. But the values shouldn't. My values of creating a business that I want to work in, where I look forward to going to work in the morning. I don't go, oh God, it's Sunday. Oh, I don't want to go to that place and I work with those people I don't like, or for the people that don't respect me and give me boring jobs and there's no career path and no one ever listens to me anyway. I'm just wasting my time. What's the point? We've all been there. I've had jobs like that.
Sure, yeah.
Instead of, yes, I want people, and I say to them, to leap out of bed and say, yippee, I get to work at Glover Daniels. I get treated like an adult. I get given the information, good or bad. We've screwed up, we all share it. If we've had success, we all share the success. In a no-blame culture where you get treated like an adult, regardless of the fact that you're just 21 and straight out of university, or 18. I actually employed someone 17 by mistake. So that person had to be a trainee for 3 months. And her father was a director of a very big company. He should have known better. So she became an intern for 3 months until she became 18. But yeah, fantastic. Create some, but never lose that passion about why you started the business. What was the change you wanted to make? Because then you get longevity. Then the business survives. If you're just in to make a quick buck and just to follow a trend, that's fine, but you know, they don't last. If you look at the legacy companies in this country, in the world, the big companies have been around, you know, for quite a while, and they're constantly reinventing themselves and adapting. Adapt, improve, and go forward is my motto.
I know you're a big fan of Simon Sinek, and you introduced me to his video of Power of Why. Can you talk about that a little bit and tell me what your why is and how important having that reasoning is?
Yeah, for those that haven't seen, this 18-minute TED Talk changed my life. I was flying back from Amsterdam, I think, and I just put it on the thing, 18 minutes, and I watched it. I thought, well, that sounded interesting. Anyway, had a drink, fell asleep, woke up and watched it again, and I thought, well, that guy's making some sense. And then I fell asleep, and then I watched it when I got home, and I went in and saw my management team. I said, guys, you have to watch this. It has totally changed my life, not just in business, in personal relationships as well. Why do we do things? And I'll explain what Simon says. But it totally changed my life. And I said, I'm just going to put this on the laptop and then I'm going to say nothing. And we'll talk about it afterwards. And everyone just went, wow. Because what he says is, if you look at any business, and he uses Apple as an example, it's not what they do or how they do it, it's why they do things. That's what makes the difference. So, you know, why would you buy, I mean, I won't ruin the thing if people should go and watch it, but he basically says, why do you buy a phone from a computer company? But we do, we go and buy Apple. Why do you buy a computer from a phone company? We do. Because they all have access to the same components, the same factories, the same technicians to build them. But why did they do it? Because they created this thing. They develop products that say, I have products that are going to change your life. I have products that are going to make you feel in control of what you do. Do you want to buy a phone? Do you want to buy a laptop? And they do. And they're incredibly successful. Because of why, they understand their why. If I look at business centers, like I say, what did we do? We rented an office, we subdivided, 10,000 square feet, a big expense at my cost, 1 year rent in advance, fit out costs, all the rent that I was liable for, divided them in subdivided offices, put boardrooms and put lounges and stuff. That was how we did it. The why, where we differed from Regis, is they wanted to sell shared office space. Massive compared to me. I wanted to create a community for entrepreneurs to be successful in. So I focused on our why, and the how and the what became obvious. Yeah. So you need to know what your why is. What's my why? You know, I have a massive network. I run a Facebook group for 123,000 people. I have 30,000 LinkedIn connections. My why is having a few people that I enjoy an evening with and a glass of wine, and having those few people in my life that add value to my life. Now I'm nearly 65. Don't look it, I know. I'm nearly 65 in a few weeks' time. That to me is my why. I want to invest my time with people that I want to spend my time with. Make sense? Now it's different. Some people might say, well, my why is I want to be rich. I want to drive a Ferrari. I want to, and there's nothing wrong in being rich. I am not a socialist in any shape or form. You know, be rich, have the car, have the lifestyle, have that, but understand that you're true to yourself. You know, be this friend that you want to be. Look in the mirror and say, I'd like that person to be my friend. Because that person is honorable, ethical. I can rely on that person. They don't cheat. They don't lie. Be that person that you want to be, and surround yourself with people that add value in your life, and get people out of your life that are negative. Same as going back to be an entrepreneur. If there's people that are pulling you down and dragging you down and matabaha, get rid of them. Don't kill them. Take them out of your life. Take them out of your social circle. Say, you're entitled to your opinion, but I disagree with you and I'm going to do this. And parents is a little bit different, but you can still focus and say, no, I'm going to do this because that's what I want to do. So once you understand what your why is, what do you want out of a romantic relationship? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have family now? Do you want to do this? If you don't, then that's not your why, that's somebody else's why. And then you change the agenda. Yeah, we'll still be friends, but I don't want to get married yet. We'll still be friends, but, I had dinner a few weeks ago with a good friend who is so MAGA, is unbelievable. He is a Trump 3 times voter. He would wear the red hat. He doesn't believe anything. We are as opposite as you could imagine politically, but we had a great dinner because I respected his right to have an opinion opposite to mine, even though he's crazy. And he didn't discuss Mr. T, but we knew where our political views were. We've had some very frank exchange of opinions, but we've always shook hands at the end and said, great discussion, Michael.
I can't wait to show Michael my phone screen. Yeah.
Don't tell me you've got Donald Trump on your phone.
I will keep it as a surprise for you.
Oh my God.
So, so a pattern that I'm seeing here in your life is, not once have I heard you say, yeah, I did it because I wanted it for the money, despite you being poor and eating, dog bone soup.
We only did that once. It wasn't like one period of a time, a few times.
Clearing it up.
It wasn't a weekly diet.
The common denominator here is people, right? Your job, why you did things. It's for the people. It's for community, which kind of, I want to talk about how EPFS started in Sri Lanka, because you started EPFS, and those who don't know what EPFS, it's a Sri Lankan expat community group that's very popular here. And can you talk about how that grew?
Yeah, I mean, just in answer to your last point, I think what made the difference was self-belief.
Okay.
Self-belief that, somebody can be blind self-belief and think I can never do anything wrong, I can never fail. That's stupid. But I believed in myself. I kept my face to the sunshine. I didn't see the shadows. And I didn't surround myself with negative people. I surrounded myself with positive people that encouraged me on the journey.
Right.
EPFS, what started as Expats Furniture Service, it's not an expat group. People think it is. It's not. We were selling the furniture of foreigners. So we were, as was the case, and this was just now 11 years, July. So do the maths when this started. Some friends of ours, British school teachers, were leaving, and as is the way in the expat world, you hand over your apartment to the incoming teacher and they often buy your furniture and this and that, and off they go. And particularly in the international schools, there's a 3-month break. The new teachers come in September and the term finishes in June or end of June. They follow the UK pattern. So these teachers had arranged that they were going to buy the furniture. Yeah, I'll buy your dining room, I'll buy your couch, I'll buy your bed, you know, and hang on to it till the end when you leave, and then I'll buy it from you. And done. So they've done the deal. So they phoned up this friend and said, by the way, we're moving out today. We're going down south for a weekend. It was a long weekend. We're going straight to the airport from there. Talk to our security, go and get the furniture, and I'll send you my bank details in the UK. Oh, sorry. No, we bought somebody else's bed and couch. This is one Brit to another. We don't need your furniture. No, but you agreed to buy it. You know, I've had other people want to buy it, but I kept it for you. Oh, yeah, sorry. Anyway, have a nice life. Bye. And they were stuck. And you've got to remember, this is, I say, before EPFS and before, you know, Facebook was so popular, there was no way to sell secondhand furniture. And this is a long weekend. This is a 4 or 5 day weekend. So we're down in Taipei having a beach party weekend. And they said, Michael, will you buy that? No, no, I have 6 bedrooms. I have a bed in every bedroom. I don't need another bed. Please, please, no. What part of no don't you understand? So they got me drunk. And eventually I said, oh God, if it shuts you up, yes, okay, just send it to my house. Because what they said, it was a nice house. They'd got a $2,500 deposit on the house. The landlord, they offered, said, look, we've been left with this furniture. It's really good furniture. Foreigners tend to buy good furniture. Yeah. Saffron beds, masterpiece beds. And if you do the maths, if someone's here for 2 years on a contract, the spare bed probably doesn't have a body sleeping in it for more than 2 or 3 weeks in the 2 years. Someone comes for 1 or 2 nights, then they go off and do the trip, come back one night, go to barefoot, go shopping, off they go back. And then the next visitor comes and they spend 1 or 2 nights and off they go. So the landlord said, no, I don't want it. A diplomatic family is moving in there on Monday and they're bringing all their own furniture. It had better be empty. Otherwise you're not getting your deposit back. You've made your problem my problem. They said, if we put it on the street, the cops would chase us to the airport. What do we do? How do we sell our furniture? Shockman's was closed. No one was open. So then they said, we don't want any money for it. Sell it, give it to charity. Find an orphanage, give it to charity. Our parting gift to Sri Lanka. So I said, okay, for God's sake, just if it shuts you up, just, you know, send it to my house. I'll tell people that you're coming. And then someone said, oh, I've got a coffee table, Michael. Another one said, I've got a washing machine. I said, do I look like a second-hand furniture man? I obviously do, because that's how they were treating me. Yes, come on, why not? Let's fill up the house, you know. My wife's looking at me like, really good, yeah, smart decisions you make when you're drunk. So I thought, okay, I'm pretty well networked in the expat community, and I set this group up called Expat Furniture, because that's what we were selling. And for a joke, I called it services, because people treat me like a second-hand furniture man. Message out a few people saying, guys, there's some great furniture there, half price. It's hard, it's virtually, you know, perfect. It's not been used and abused. You know, go fill your boots. You know, and we had some stuff to sell as well, so we put that on there. And then some other locals said to me, oh, Michael, we've seen this platform. Can we sell our stuff on your platform? I said, well, yeah, we're giving this to charity. I tell you what, how about you give 10% to charity? How does that work? Sell the table for 11,000 rupees. Give 1,000 for charity and keep the 10. And in those days, something like 9 out of 10 people who used our platform gave the money. And often they would say, look, I don't know what to do with it. Can I trust you, Michael? You give that and you find a worthy cause. That's fantastic. You know, I'm very happy to give 10%. And in the early days, people did. And the idea was that it was going to be open for a month to sell this furniture. We had about 50 people. And very soon the 50 became 100, became 250, became 500 within 3 months, members. I said to my wife, don't these people have jobs? Why are they all following me on Facebook? This is weird. Then when we got to 2,500 members, I realized I was onto something. Because now people are selling, and we had about 4 million go into our bank account. We had a bank account we didn't use. And then one of our members said, Michael, do you realize the tax man could come after you for this? No, it's not my money. I'm giving it away. I've got the receipts. This orphanage got this animal charity, this. But it's gone through your bank account. It can be classed as income. No. So we took advice and we set up a company. Then we changed the name to EPFS Community because somebody else set up Expats Furniture Service.
Copied it. Yeah.
Copied it. And the way that Facebook works, if you just put an underscore or you put dot or Sri Lanka at the end of it, or the Expats Furniture Service, they'll let you register it because it's not an ideal copy. And we couldn't copyright the name because people could just change. Now there are 26 copies of our group. Yeah. They don't give money to charity. So fast forward on, we formed a company with 1 share, which is worth 10 rupees, which I have, no assets, no staff, no nothing, that we make about 6 million a year, which I choose to give to charity. That's my choice. You know, I could put it in my pocket. Some people think I'm stupid. I don't think it is. I have a run profitable business. I don't need to steal from animals or elders' homes who are paying medicine and, you know, orphanages. We don't need to steal from them. And I know it's, and I'm having a bash at Sri Lanka today. I love Sri Lanka. You know, I know it's not the Sri Lankan way. And I've had a lot of people call me a con man, a trick. People set up a website, a Facebook page, Get Michael Moonesinghe. They put a big red cross over my face. And kind of when you put your head above the parapet, you sometimes have to accept it. But hey, you laugh. They took my children's pictures. They took my parents' pictures and started attacking them, saying I was leading a fancy life. They took pictures of my wife and me in Japan and in the Netherlands. We were there, but we paid for the ticket ourselves. We were there on business for our companies, nothing to do. We're independently audited by a firm of auditors. So, but people will throw brickbats, and I accept that. I'm very thick-skinned, and people will call me what they like. They've got to prove it. They said it's not a normal thing to run a business and give 6 million away. To give 100% of what you make, you give away, and you don't take a salary. I pay my own phone bill. I've offered my wife, who works 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, voluntary running this community, which now has 123,000 members. And we have 400 post requests every day. She, and I do when I can, reviews the posts and process. She refuses to take even a 25,000 salary. She said, this is my charity work, so she won't take it. But the United Nations has used EPFS during the floods. There was 20,000 members at one time and 50,000 the following members. They said the government can reach, through the Disaster Management Center, Facebook group, 4,500 people on social media. We in those days could reach 20,000, 50,000 when the Easter bombing happened. Our platform became the de facto platform, even during COVID, for reliable information, because I wouldn't just post something. I'd want to check the information, use our research skills to get a second source to that news before we put it out. We won't be the first, but we'll be accurate when we put information out. You've got to take that responsibility. Some newspapers don't have 123,000 circulation.
No, yeah.
You know, so you've got to respect that. Now, the problem with that, we have editorial control. And I have a rule. It's very clear on the group. Everyone is welcome in the EPFS community. It's not a foreigners group, although 25% are foreigners. 25% of Sri Lankans living overseas. And the rest are locals. And everyone is welcome. I don't care what your religion is, your politics, your gender, your sexuality, your disability. Everybody is welcome in the community. But one rule, play nicely. Play nicely. I don't have to agree with everything you say, and you don't have to agree with everything I say. What a boring world that would be. Yeah, life isn't black and white, it's shades of grey. But I should be mature enough to accept your right to have an opinion opposite to mine, so long as, and the Easter bombing was a classic situation where we locked down the group before anyone could post. And we had the racists and the bigots, and they were creating firestorms left, right. We couldn't control it. So we turned off and took complete control over the group, and then slowly we've released it back where members can post and comment. Because otherwise it was just getting out of hand. And we had that responsibility not to fan the flames, to be sensible, to be calm. Let's all do it. You know, so it became a community. It is a community. It's an online community. Now, sadly, we think only 4 out of 10 follow through on their pledge to give 10% of what they sell it for to charity. I accept we've all got busy lives. The coffee table's gone. We've moved on. Forgot to give the 10%. But if you don't have to do it, if it's a voluntary thing, if it's based on your own integrity and your own honor, old-fashioned words, yeah? But your honor to follow through on your pledged donation. You've used the service, but you don't want to make the donation because it was a free service. So it's open to abuse. And we've thought about charging for it and this and that. No. We've given over 37 million to charities since we started. Not my money, but I'm the catalyst. I believe that we can make good things happen just by you help this person. You've got a laptop that you want to donate, we'll help you find the donation. You've got this need, that need. So it's back to, it's an entrepreneurism. It's a social entrepreneurism and making good things happen without there necessarily being a financial gain at the end. So you can still start a business, a social business, without it being about making money.
Right.
Businesses don't always have to make money. Most do, but they don't have to.
When I think about things like Facebook, now owned by Meta, all these big global companies, social media companies, they're heavily known for censorship. During the Easter bombings in particular, or during COVID, I'm sure, did you have any experiences with that?
We were shut down during COVID for 3 months.
Completely shut down?
Completely. No warning, nothing. We just went to the page. Yep. And the Facebook group, when we were it wasn't there. We couldn't access it. We were getting all these messages like, why have you banned me from the group? I can't find the group. What have I done wrong? Well, I'm saying, we haven't done anything. Whoa. I mean, hundreds of messages. And what it was, someone asked on the group, and I declined to post today for exactly this reason, where can I get this medicine from? I've been to Union Chemist and this place, they don't have it. Does anyone know where I can get this from? Mm-hmm. Now, during COVID, my mother, when she was alive, bless her, she had COVID and she was in ICU and the doctors had recommended certain medicines in those days that they thought would help. Would I have, we know, having run a large Facebook group, we cannot allow posts that sell alcohol, tobacco, weapons and stuff. We know that. You can't go and sell a machine gun or a knife on Facebook. It's not allowed. We don't even allow air guns. It's got the word gun in because all of it it's bots that are monitoring it. Right. It's not a person. So they see air gun and there's a problem. So we don't allow it. Even if, a kid's pen knife, we don't allow it. It's got the word knife in it. So we knew you couldn't sell prescribed medicines, but they weren't selling. They were saying, where can I get? Would I have asked the question for my mother when she was sick? Damn right I would. Damn right. So we allowed the post, not for my mother, for somebody else. And Facebook shut us down or disabled the group for 3 months and said, but they was permanently disabled. I got it back.
If I can stop you there, let me get this clear. Somebody messaged the group regarding getting
where can I get this medicine from?
For their mother.
Yep.
And Meta shut you down.
Yep.
Because you
allowed
the post
regarding prescription medicines. Prescription medicines. They're even funny about vitamins now. We're very funny about letting people, can I get this vitamin or that vitamin? They're funny about that because again, the bot's doing it. So I made an appeal,
very interesting,
which failed. They said the appeal has been unsuccessful, blah, 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 your group will not be enabled. So then luckily I had this member who was one of the previous president's social media manager. I was never a fan of the president, but he said, look, I've got the number for Facebook's regional guy in India. Would you like it? I said, yes, please. And his email. So I emailed him, got ignored. Sent him a WhatsApp message, got ignored. So I called this guy just out of the blue. So, and then he set up a call with his Sri Lankan guy, who was in charge of Sri Lanka and the Maldives. And he said, yes, I'm in your group. I said, wonderful. Then that United Nations uses for emergency messages. It's a social service. We give money away. Yes. So release my group. I can't. You've broken the rules. No, we haven't broken the rules. The rules say we cannot sell. There's all our posts to sell. Yes, the post wasn't saying that. It was, where can I get it from? Or at least give me a warning. Look, this is a social service, all right? I don't make any money out of this. I've had a very quiet 3 months, thank you very much. Not screening 400 posts every single day. I said, but this is a social service and I feel real passionate about this. So passionate that I'm willing to go public on this. We have people in the media, in the TV, in the newspaper, willing to take on our case and basically create a hell of a mess for you. He said, Facebook don't take kindly to threats. I said, I'm not threatening you. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. I want an appeal on the appeal. They said, well, no one's ever done that before. I said, well, there's something new. Why don't we try it? I said, okay, well, I'll review it again personally. I said, okay, thank you. That's all I'm asking for. and you'll see that we did not break the rules. I don't like things that are unfair. I get massively upset
Over injustice.
about injustices. I was bullied all through my school life because of the colour of my skin. Here they treat me like a Sudda. You know, there I was a Paki and a Wog, and I had terrible bullying in all my school life, and even in the police through racism. So I just hate injustices. So I said, this is just not fair. It's as simple as that. So I said, okay, I want to respond I'll hold the press off for 24 hours. He said, it's Friday. I said, so what? And he said, give me a week. So, no, give me a month. I said, we'll settle on a week. So I gave him a week, and he said, I'll come back to you. I said, either way, and if you don't want to do anything, we'll move ahead. I'm just telling you what we're going to do. On the 7th day, no message, no nothing. Every day we were checking, no access, no. Bing, it opened again. In the meantime, we'd opened a new group called the New EPFS Community. The word went out very, very fast. It grew to 10,500 members, where people say, oh, hallelujah. We've not been blocked. You've not been blocked from the group. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And then when we had the original one back, people said, can't we keep this one?
It's smaller.
Because we haven't got the idiots there. Because the problem is, guys, as the group has grown, it reflects society more and more.
Yeah.
So out of 123,000 people, you damn right, we have our fair share of con men, of perverts, of bigots, of racists, because they exist in society. We're not some utopia world that doesn't exist. It's an online community. And now we don't let people in with locked profiles. Now we look at the profile, we're looking to see what are they posting, have they got friends, have they got regular posts, are they posting political stuff. We don't allow political or religious discussions on our group. Go and discuss them elsewhere, because everyone's welcome, because we know what happens when you allow this thing, particularly during an election or whatever. Everyone's welcome, we all have our own views, but let's just play nicely in the sandpit. So they opened it back again, but not one word of apology, no message from this guy at all. You probably put a contract out on me or something, but yeah, maybe I should
it's
have.
meta. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Maybe I should have security now when I go. But I have had my life threatened a few times.
Oh.
Yeah.
Here in Sri Lanka.
Seriously threatening, yeah.
Not your time as a cop. You mean in Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Touch wood. Is it wood? But yeah, touch wood. No one's ever followed through with it. You know.
No, I can imagine, because you would have come here. You came here with a lot of radical ideas and concepts that
Not
were
really.
new.
No, people just don't like
Change.
people doing good. There's that jealousy. In England, they call it the tall poppy syndrome. When the tall poppy, like Princess Diana, got too tall, they chop the poppy down so everyone's equal. So when you're putting yourself up and you're saying, hey, I've opened 4 business centers, or I've done this, I've done, not for me, my businesses we work at day in, day out to make money and employ people and pay taxes.
Yeah.
That's great. We've always paid taxes.
Yeah.
You know, we're squeaky clean. We came in under the Border Investment Scheme, which, you know, allowed 100% foreign ownership, which meant you had to be very squeaky clean. You had to stay squeaky clean. Otherwise, your visa got cancelled. Now I've got dual nationality. So they can't throw me out of the country. They can put me in prison, but they can't throw me out of the country. But people don't like that. This is again back to the Sri Lankan culture, which is sad, is this jealousy culture. Why not? You know, if someone drives past in England with a Rolls Royce, you say, yeah, I want to drive a Rolls Royce one day. What did he do to get that? Here, yes, I wonder how many bribes he took for that. I wonder, maybe he did. You know,
But that's the
I wonder
thing,
he's
right,
a
Michael?
cheating person.
But that's the thing. There is a form of truth to that, in a sense, with how people make their money here as opposed to the West. So, yeah, maybe there is jealousy, and that is a very big problem. But at the same time, the way certain people make money out of illicit means, and
Yeah.
I know that most people here live on credit. Then they overspend on credit. Money that I feel that could be used for businesses, building value, building communities. So, would you say there is truth to that?
There is. And I think people have to just try and believe in what they want to do. You know, and I said, if anyone doesn't want to do business with any of our companies, because we won't pay a bribe. We've never paid a bribe knowingly in the 15 and a half years I've run businesses here. We've never taken a bribe. We've never paid a bribe.
This is why people want to kill you.
Probably. Yeah.
Now we know.
Probably. Maybe one day they will. And this will be the last word of Michael Moonesinghe. Yeah, I mean, people put my address out. They did all sorts of stuff. Yeah, share my number in certain groups and stuff. Even recently, someone had threatened and over something really stupid. And I was being so calm and saying, why are you taking such an aggressive attitude? There's no need. Just have a discussion. Tell me what your problem is. I'll look into it. I'll fix it. It was something stupid on Facebook, and it's like, you'll know it happens when it happens. I'm like, yeah, really?
Oof.
Okay,
You should.
I was a cop for 6 years, and I brought up 2 teenage daughters. I don't scare easy. Trust me. If you brought up teenage daughters, you know that in England, which is slightly different than whatever. Talk to the hand. Talk to the hand, Dad. The face isn't. You don't scare easy. So.
Boyfriends, I can imagine.
Yeah, all of that. But no, I mean, I do not have the answers to Sri Lankan problems at all. Never claimed to have, never put myself above anyone else. I'm just saying, I'm just doing what I'm doing. I choose to give money to charity. I contact one guy who'd got 58,000 members in a group, and I said to him, why are you calling your group the EPFS community 100% genuine? Yeah. Do you even know what EPFS stands for? He said, no. I said, well, there's a start. And a lot of them don't know what it stands for. And he said, do you want an honest answer? I said, well, it'd be a good start. And he said, because I knew that if people thought my group was one of yours, that we'd grow fast. And we did. We went up to 58,000 members.
Oh my God.
Gotta appreciate his honesty.
I said, I appreciate your honesty, but not your integrity. I haven't invented selling on the internet at all. I choose to give the money that we raise. Now our page is sponsored for 25,000 rupees a week to sponsor our page. Okay, some companies just taking it for 3 months, an academic group, God bless them. And that money goes 100% to charity and helping orphanages and elders' homes and animal charity. I'm a big animal lover. But I get criticism for that. You're giving money to charity, is it people without food? Yes, and if you do the maths as I do, every single time I give the money away, there are always more people charities than animal charities. I do the count. And if you'd counted, you wouldn't make such a stupid statement. But I choose to give money to people who feed street dogs.
Yeah.
My choice. I give money to people that are fostering things, and this lady foreigner down in Hikkaduwa looks after 120 cats that have got cancer.
Wow.
Well, I've got 6 cats, and if I can give you a little bit of help, 20,000 here or there, help pay for some treatment, hey, that's great. I feel good. It's not my money. I publish every time we give the money, who got the money and everything. They say thank you, thank you, thank you. It's independently audited, but still people criticize us. But they copy us. People say imitation is the best form of flattery. I think it's a pain in the ass. And I used to get upset about it, but now I just think, let them do their stuff. We'll do our stuff. And people generally can see through. A lot of people don't realize they're not my group. I only have 2 groups, the original EPFS community and the new EPFS community. That's it. Anything else, if it's got 100% genuine or Sri Lanka or Colombo or Jaffna, nothing to do with me.
It's
nothing
fake.
to do with me. They're copy-paste.
That's good for the audience to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can ask you though, I'm very curious to know what your time was like as a cop and how that affected your mindset. 5 years as a cop in the UK, that's a very unique experience.
It is. It makes you grow up quickly. They always say the army makes a man of you. To be a policeman, you have to be a man. Because I went straight from school, 18 months as a cadet, which is like an apprenticeship cop. And then when I became 18 and a half, I joined the police force as a constable. And I got the award of the top academic student of the course out of 250, even though I haven't got an A-level. And these people with degrees and everything. But because I happen to have a very good memory, studying law and current affairs. But you're going in at 18 into a family situation where, they may be 45-year-old, kids, there's all sorts of issues in the family. And you're trying to tell them how to run their life and where they've broken the law and everything. It's tricky. And you have to realize what you can do and what you can't do. But it gives you confidence to be able to, because you have to, they just see the uniform. Often people don't see the age, they just see the uniform, and they see you as a threat or an authority or making them do something they don't want to do. But it teaches, like, the job I did when I left the police was in sales. And trying to get into sales without sales experience is difficult. So I decided to be a smart ass and say, yeah, I've got 6 years sales experience. And the guy said to me, he said, well, how can you as a policeman? Yeah, police force don't have salespeople, do they? Have I missed something? And say, do you know what selling is? Selling is defined as persuading someone to do a particular act. Yeah? Like, we're on the 3rd floor here.
Yeah.
If I said to you guys, jump out the window, you're probably going to break both legs. Would you do it? No. I know we've enjoyed a beer, but you wouldn't do it, would you? It'd be a stupid thing to do. Yeah?
One more beer.
If I said,
Maybe.
if I said, tempting fate here, this building is on fire, the only exit route down the stairs is a complete inferno. Okay, there's no exit. If you stay here, it's certain death. The only thing we can do is jump out the window and might break both legs. Would you jump out the window now?
Absolutely.
What's changed? Same building, same fire. I've given you reason to do something. I've persuaded you to do a particular act.
Through fear.
No, through logic.
Through logic.
I use a scary thing.
Yeah,
you could say the same about anything.
Yeah.
If I give you a logical argument, it's very hard to argue against logic, except when it's your wife. They are the world's expert in not being logical.
Wives, girlfriends, everyone.
All of the above. Yeah. So I would say I've been in a situation where I've had to persuade someone to do a particular act. There was one guy, he came home, found his wife in bed with his best friend. He obviously was pissed off about it, he got drunk. He went and got 2 knives from the kitchen, and the fight turned out into the street. And he's decided that he's going to kill this guy, kill a cop, or kill anyone else who comes within reach of him, or kill himself. Now I have to persuade this guy to put the knives down. Otherwise, this police dog was going to come in and bite him, and it's going to hurt, and there's going to be lots of blood. But more importantly, it's going to give me a lot of paperwork, and I'm due for dinner in a few hours with my friends. So I'd really appreciate it if you put that down. So I used humor. I got inside. I stopped his cycle he was in. I said, hey, I'd be pissed off. I totally get it, mate. Absolutely. But killing yourself or killing him is not going to solve that. Okay, you need to put them down, and I'll keep the dog away. We need to sit down and have a man-to-man conversation about why you're angry. I know why you're angry, but this isn't the way we're going to do it, mate. I sold him the idea. There's another one, a motorcycle chain. Have you ever seen a motorcycle chain? They're quite big and chunky. One guy was swinging it around his head on a Friday night. And I said to the interviewer, have you ever been in that situation? No, I said, I have. I persuaded him to put the thing down. I couldn't walk away like most sensible people do on a Friday night and go and hide around the corner. I'm wearing the uniform. I have to stand there and deal with the situation. There's no backup. It was a busy night. I had persuaded him to do a particular act. So from the police, I learned life skills and persuasion and controlling a conversation and making people do what I want them to do to get the result that I hopefully can get. You don't always win. The guy with the 2 knives actually did get bitten eventually.
Oh. Did he?
And because he tried to knife the dog.
Oh.
So the guy had no choice but to let the dog loose on him. Yeah. And it was quite fun. There was 2 dogs actually. And I remember the call coming out on the radio a few hours later. The guy went to hospital, obviously. And they said, can the 2 dog handlers that attended such a scene please check their dogs? Because what they'd found was plaque, but they thought it was a tooth embedded in this guy's stomach. The dog had gone for the stomach. It's only on the training where they go for the arm. They'll go for anything they can get hold of. I've seen one guy dragged out by his head from under a car. Yeah, he was hiding from us. And the only reason he drove away, he was on the back of a motorbike with no helmet, and we thought it was a stolen vehicle. We chased him, we laid the bike down, and the passenger went under this car, and he's hiding. The dog smelt him, pulled him out by his head. A lot of blood. Moral of the story, wear a crash helmet. You wouldn't get bitten. Yeah. But yes, they found what they thought was a dog tooth in his stomach, and it turned out to be just plaque.
That sounds like a lawsuit.
No.
Ready to
Dogs allowed to attack. He
Fair
was
enough.
he was attacking them. So police dogs, don't mess with them. Yeah.
But this skill set that you got from 5 years being in the police force and how that helped you, I mean, there's no education degree that could make up for that.
Yeah, it's life skills. It's life skills. And that's what traveling helps. So we talked earlier about people leaving the island. Go traveling. Traveling is the best education ever. You don't have to leave the island, but you can go in 3 months or 6 months, and go and see other countries, go and see how people view things. 50% of Americans don't have passports. That's why, often they have that attitude that America's the center of the world and we all bow down to them. Well, guess what? No, we don't, guys. And there's a big wide world outside of America.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Americans don't travel. The Americans we meet that do travel tend to have a different attitude. Same with the Australians. I've been to Australia a few times. I love Australia. But there's a lot of people that have never been out of the state of New South Wales, let alone go to, I've seen more of Australia than a lot of Australians because they don't travel out of state. So travel is a great education and it's a great life skill.
Interesting. So I think we'll start closing up. Michael, if you could give one solid piece of advice to entrepreneurs that want to take a risk, like you said today, what would that be to them?
Decide why you want to start a business. It's not just to be the boss or you're unemployable or you're unemployed. What is the reason? What's your why? Look at the reason of the why and build backwards. Then the how and the what become obvious, usually. Work out your DNA of what you're starting with. Like I said to, I was speaking once at the BMICH, the Rotarian Road Tractor Conference. And I was given 15 minutes on how to be successful in business. I kind of might need a bit longer than that. They give me 15 minutes. So I chose one of our principles and I chose integrity. I said, ladies and gentlemen, your integrity is like your virginity. That went down well. 450 people in the audience, young adults, probably 90% virgins. I said, you can't get a second chance of getting your virginity back. And you don't get it back if you lose your integrity. Create a business that has genuine value, genuine ethics, and don't do business with anyone else or don't work for anyone else that wants to question your integrity. And I said, who's going to stand up here now and pledge this? And eventually one guy stood up. I said, let's give this guy a round of applause. Well done, what's your name, sir? Then somebody else stood up and somebody else stood up. So by the time it finished, I had the whole audience on their feet. I said, now go and tell 3 of your friends, the way you are successful in business is have integrity, have honor, build a business that has ethics to it. And then it survives, I think. It survives. Adapt, improve, go forward, mold, follow the market, change to market forces, all of the above, like Airbnb. Change, adapt, go with your customers, listen to your customers, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Don't be the techie that designs this and the customers want to buy that. But go for it. What have you got to lose? Particularly if you're young, or if you're at the other extent, if you're old and you've got experience, maybe the kids are off your hands. Maybe the loan is manageable. Maybe you know from working as an employee somewhere how things can be done better. So do it. Do it. The country needs, this country will not come out of the situation it's in just through government contracts and government employees. It won't.
Of course not.
It has to come from the SME sector. And the small medium enterprise sector typically are the biggest taxpayers, more than the large corporates. They pay a lot of tax, of course do, but the volume, if you look at the pyramid again, is the small medium enterprise.
Right.
And the startups are the broad base. They're what feed into the smaller businesses and the medium enterprises that might eventually become a unicorn or a conglomerate.
Right, but when you think of our state policies, it's like an inverted pyramid, right? It's the complete opposite.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's, and the pension age, Sri Lanka is one of the fastest growing, fastest aging populations in the world. I looked at a business idea about creating retirement communities here.
Right.
Called Marigold Communities. And I got to an investor stage and we looked about 20 properties, we got 3 down, all happened to be owned by foreigners, and we were ready to push the button. And something in the back of my mind just said, we probably shouldn't do this because, and then something happened. The government gave a no travel warning to Sri Lanka.
Okay.
And I think it was Germany gave it. And I said, if our business could be affected that easy, because we expected the UK and Netherlands and France to follow, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Because that's our market. So you've always got to look at this, this risk reward basis. Back to playing poker.
Yeah.
Risk reward, is the reward worth taking the risk? I might bet 200 to win 1,000 pot, but I'm not going to bet 1,000 to win a 200 pot. That doesn't make sense. The risk isn't worth the reward. So if someone's keen about doing something, then do it. Have a go and do it, and talk to people. Get advice. I'm probably one of the easiest people to find on social media. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and whatever. I respond to every message I get. Takes me a while, so I get about 50 messages a day, but I will respond to every single message. Even if it's, I can't help you, but I'll try and find somebody who can.
Right.
And no, I don't give out loans.
Right.
Which is normally, will you lend me 2 million?
Right.
You've never met me before. I'll do the risk reward. The risk is not worth it for me, so I won't do it. But people should have a go. But we need to create and develop this entrepreneurial culture. We need to be having conversations at home, with families, with friends, and just say, do you know what? Being your own boss or starting your own company is actually okay. Bill Gates has never worked for anyone else. Mark Zuckerberg has never worked for anyone else. Richard Branson has never worked for anyone else. They've done okay.
Yep.
Several of them never completed their degrees either.
That's true.
Not that there's anything wrong with degrees. I am passionate about education. I have a daughter with a master's degree. I just choose to. Education didn't light my fire, didn't give me what I wanted.
Bringing in poker to the equation though, I play poker, and sometimes, in my personal opinion, one of the biggest issues poker players have is that they don't know when to fold. They get carried away.
That's right.
Right? Or they
don't do the risk reward.
They don't do the risk reward. At what point do you fold? If
when the risk becomes too great for the reward. You might succeed. You might be that 1 in 100 times. I had a friend of mine that wins. I had a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, went to the States. He loved playing 3-2 offsuit, 3-2 of different suits. The worst cards you can ever get.
Right, yeah.
He just loved playing them. Yeah. And occasionally he made a full house.
Yeah.
Occasionally. He lost more than he won.
Right.
But when he won, we all went, oh.
It was big. It was big.
You were playing, you see it come up on the table, 3-3. Have you got 3-2 offs? Have you got, I might have. You are, aren't you? You're playing 3. Do you know, I'm just going to, for the fun of it, I'm going to call you. And he'd turn over 3-2. And he'd made a full house. You don't play 3-2 offsuit. But he did. Because for him, the buzz was the play. He never, very rarely won. Very rarely won. And always came and lost money and always drank a lot.
Right.
Which was stupid. But I don't play for big stakes. I play for very small stakes.
Right.
I play with people who run businesses where the buzz is, I beat you this week. Next week, I'm going to get you, Michael. It's the fun of the thing. It's not about the money. It's never about the money.
You see a lot of similarities between poker and life.
Yeah. And if you play for the money, you're an idiot, I think. I don't gamble.
Yeah.
I go out and invest X thousand rupees on a nice social evening with my buddies that I'm going to play and have a nice evening. I'm never going there to make money. That's a stupid idea.
And I know you've told me many times that should not be the reason for starting a business either. So,
No, it can be a reason for starting a business.
And not the sole reason.
Yeah, you have to understand what is the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
What is the issue? Why is your business needed? And if it's just because I'm cheaper than the next guy, that's a silly mistake. But if you can come up with a business or an angle on a business, or do it better, or you open a coffee shop in in Colombo 7, like Cafe Kumbuk did, where they know the provenance of food and they're displaying something, now you'll be successful and the number 1 on TripAdvisor, because even though they opened another coffee shop, they were different, they were better, and they're not cheaper.
Right. And that is the main thing, isn't it? Because I'm sure Enosh can agree, I have that same thing, is that competitors are constantly trying to undercut through price wars. And they will do things, they will do it at a loss. just to stick it to you.
Yeah.
But when you think of Cafe Kumbuk, it's a low barrier to entry market with restaurants, but the quality keeps them on top.
Quality. And you understand, I say I've got clients that work with me for 25 years. They know the value that I add, but that comes at a cost. So yes, they'll say so-and-so is doing it cheaper. Yeah, and sometimes I have to be flexible. Sometimes I'm smart enough to say, it has to go through the vetting process, and there is a budget to it. We've had to make cuts, and we will only pay this. Okay, and often I'll be facetious back, and I'll say, okay, what part of the process don't you want? I know. I'll cut out the interviews phase. I won't interview the candidates. I'll just send the CVs to you like everyone else is doing, and I'll let you do all the work, and then you just pay me the fee at the end. Is that okay? No, we want you to interview. Well, the other guys aren't doing that. They're sending you 100 CVs, and I'm doing the job properly, but I won't pay them properly for it. You choose. What do you want? This or this? And I've walked away from deals that aren't right for me. I used to no bid probably 30% of the opportunities we get. I'd no bid them. Say no thanks. Not
You wouldn't
interested.
bid them, right?
Yeah. Can't do it at that price.
Right.
People are just. We got into one with a very big company where they wanted us to do a reverse auction. So there were all these different companies all sitting in their boardrooms and whatever. And okay, I'll do that for $100 a day. You then put your bid 98. You bid 95. I'll bid 90. Now we'd done a graph, and I knew when we were going from the green price to an amber, and when my walkaway price was, the red. And we knew the client was probably just sitting there going down, 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 down on their computer. And I just thought, what a stupid way of doing business.
Right.
Buy cheap, buy twice. Okay, good luck. I hope you all,
Good
have
luck
a
with
wonderful
that, yeah.
life, because I'm not interested in business at that price.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just want to end with this last question. Something I think will be of very large value to our audiences. How do you manage the low points and the high points of starting a business, but also life in general? Some people get carried away with the high points, and some people get paralyzed by the low points. How do you deal with both sides of that?
I would say keep it real. Anyone who knows me knows that I've not really changed from when I was eating soup bones to when I'm flying business class on a gold card,
Right.
and a fancy car and a 6-bedroomed house. No, I don't think I've changed. I really don't.
Interesting.
I always say the hype in whatever is for others to believe. Don't believe your own PR is the best advice I would give people. Don't believe your own PR. That's there for others to believe.
Right.
One of my best friends, I said to him, there's two me's. There's a public me and a private me. You'll get to know the private me, which is very different from the public me. Don't believe all that. That's there for it's not bullshit. It's that's PR for the companies and this, and this. But that's not necessarily the real me. But the real me definitely has the trust, honor, respect, integrity, loyalty, longevity. I will give you my last rupee and I'll walk home. If I genuinely like you and I genuinely want to help you and I think your case is worthy, I'll be that person for you, that you can call me at 3 a.m. and I'll try and help you. And I think as long as you keep it real and you don't believe your own PR, then I think you'll be successful. Whether you're starting a business, whether you're going into a relationship, whether you're an employee, whether you're a parent and a kid, just keep it real. I try to. Have I done it all my life properly? Absolutely not.
Not.
Absolutely not. I have made stupid decisions, stupid mistakes. But you can't change the past. That's why it's called the past. You can't change it.
Yeah.
All you can't change the future. All you can change is today. That's all you can do. You can change. So you just work on trying to be the best that you are. And I say I'm not religious. I don't believe in religion at all. I used to be very religious. But then I just got to the stage where I thought there's too many people fighting wars in the name of war, in the name of religion. My religion's better than you. My God's better than your God. You look around the world, they're all fighting because of religion.
Yeah.
Well, if there wasn't religion, would there be wars? Maybe. We'd find something else to fight about.
Probably. We'll fight about something. We'll pick something.
So it's not a religious view, it's just a personal view. Just try and be a nice person. Be the person in the mirror and like the person you're looking at. If you say yes 7 days a week, you're lying. Because we all arseholes sometimes, I am. And sometimes you make shitty decisions, sometimes you do something, you think, that wasn't nice. I shouldn't have done that. Pick up the phone and say, hey, did I say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Easy, but we don't do it.
Yeah.
We
Keep it
don't
real.
say sorry enough. It's a shame. But if you're with people who know you and love you, I would say I have a great circle of friends that I love them and they love me, not in a physical sense, but I know that they would do anything for me and I would do anything for them. And I don't need lots of people to do that. You don't need thousands of people. You just need a few people.
That you can count on.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And be happy. Because no one knows when's our last day. No one knows. I think Simon Sinek does a talk on this, where he says, he messaged someone and said, are you okay? And she said, no, I'm really, really bad. Well, when you messaged me, well, I did. I said, how are you? And you said, okay. Well, you said you're okay. Yeah, but I wasn't.
Right.
And he does it much, explains it better than I do. And sometimes it's just being there for people.
Being there for people, I know.
Yeah.
I've seen this. I've seen this, yeah.
Just step up for people and just say, yeah, are you okay?
And people really appreciate that, like I was telling you, you were telling me actually, just going to Keels and going anywhere, just asking someone, hi, doing okay today?
Yeah, how are you today?
And that changes their day, probably their week or their
I do
month.
it all the time. I talk to doormen and waiters. You're never so important.
Yeah.
I used to eat in 5-star hotels all the time with my job. And you're never so important that you can't say to a waiter, thank you very much, son, appreciate that. I don't like fussy service. I don't need you to open my napkin. I'm a big boy. I got him on my own, but I don't like fussy service. But you're never so important. And when I'm interviewing CEOs and senior people for jobs, I watch how they interact with the waiter or the doorman, the door person. I watch, and I'll note if someone's rude or abrupt with someone. I just think, you ain't, we all come from nothing. We all go to nothing.
I love that. I love that. We're nothing, but I guess that's freedom in itself. You can do anything you like
Just be nice.
and be nice, yeah.
It's not difficult, is it? If we all tried to be nicer to each other, regardless of gender and politics and race, well, the world would be a nicer place if we just try to be nice to each other. I always smile at people when I go in. It scares the hell out of people. It's a lot of fun when you go in, particularly on a train or something. You say, hi. You all right?
Yeah. Hi, yeah.
Weirdo in the carriage.
Okay. Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. This
Yeah.
has been great. And
It's been a pleasure.
I just want to say to the listeners, Mike, we couldn't touch on it, but Michael is an amazing cook. And
Yes.
I order from Michael all the time. So if you want something, check out Michael's Passion. Check out Instagram, Michael's Passion. I highly, highly recommend it.
Cooking with love. Thank you for the
Thank you.